Oh, live from the internet. This is the Crystal Chronicles, your Destiny of Final Fantasy Opera Omnia podcast. Welcome to episode 79, recorded on this December 5th, 2019. I am your host, Mark, and I was having trouble changing the slides on Twitch, but I did do that because I was hitting the same thing over and over, so that's going to be fun on the recording, listening to the song like playing 3 times. How is everybody doing? Welcome all of you on Twitch live with us. We record every Thursday night, except on Thanksgiving and other holidays, at 8 p.m. Central Standard Time, or all of you joining us on Twitch video on demand on YouTube or on our podcast, various services. Thank you all for joining us. You can find out more about us, tccpodcast.com, including the link to our Discord, and come join us and talk during the week. Well, I am joined by my good friends and yours. First, his name is Mino Spellgood, back from a holiday Christmas party at the office. How are you doing, Mino?
Hey, Mark. Doing okay. Rough week. A lot to talk about today. So are we doing what are we drinking tonight? Should we just combine that here?
What are you drinking?
We got a lot of leftover booze from Thanksgiving. So Pinot Noir, because I need to stay relatively clear to get through all the content tonight.
Very good. And I'm also joined by Kreese, a.k.a. Zerink. How you doing, Kreese?
A little sick, and I am drinking a hard seltzer tonight.
Ooh, fancy. That is the drink of the sick, I guess. Hey, the first thing we want to talk about before the news of the day is a term clarification, a term that we use off and on. I think we used it 2 weeks ago. We were off last week for the people on Twitch are saying hard setzer. Yeah, that's a whole different show, kids. Put the kids to bed.
Holy crap,
That's Defo after hours. We're not talking about that today. No, but there is a term that we use about a certain type of attack, and we tend to call it a gravity attack. So did one of you want to clarify what we mean by a gravity attack?
I'll tackle this,
Yeah.
sure. So gravity is a term that's been used in multiple Final Fantasy games in the past to dictate spells that do a percentage health damage. These are gravity spells such as Demi, you might remember from Final Fantasy VII and Final Fantasy VIII, and we just kind of kept that language when we talk about abilities that shave a percentage of a target's brave as part of its brave attacks. These are usually separate, and characters that have percentage brave attacks include Ultimecia and Bartz, just as the ones off the top of my head that do that. This is pretty useful because it shaves a percentage of brave regardless on the target's defense. So just keep that in mind. So when we talk about gravity attacks, we're usually talking about percentage brave shave.
Yeah, and Charlotta's EX is a gravity attack, as, of course, is Gilgamesh has gravity attacks as well. I believe there's several characters.
Yeah, on Deathclaw, he has a gravity attack.
And we bring it up because I think we were talking about Ultimecia last time, and we used the term, and a lot of people had questions about it. So Ultimecia's, that's a big thing. People complaining in co-op, with these high defense enemies. They're like, hey, use skill 2 to gravity before you brave shave. I guess a lot of people really, really still haven't wrapped their head around that.
Well, her special brave attack also is a gravity attack, I believe, isn't it?
Which attack?
The brave attack.
Yeah.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, her normal brave attack, yeah. All right, well, that brings us to news of the day. We did get all of our rewards for the community stream, so thank you, Squex, for that, and Square Enix, Joshua, and Glacy for those streams. We're looking forward to one, I believe, right before Christmas, right? Or is it right after? No, right after Christmas is the next stream. So
Josh has something to say in chat.
Uh-oh. So
if you want
Josh
to read
is
that.
here.
Yeah, he says,
What?
what about Sandworm's gravity spin that does HP damage equal to 50% target's HP? Okay, fine. Here, how about this, guys? Gravity is a term we use in the FF series and RPGs in general that go based off of a percentage of a number instead of going through the normal formulas used for damage or defense or whatever. So basically, it's anything that's just percentage based, flat percentage based. There you go.
Well, thank you for always throwing a wrench in the machine there, Joshua, and thank you for all that you do for our community. We did also get the wonderful December calendar in game, so you can check out what is coming and when. We also got new Chocobo panel missions, which included using Kuja and Squall, using Shiva, killing skeletons, and killing some creature that I'm not even sure where it is. What is that crazy G thing?
Garchimacera are those little imp things. I think they're in a couple of the Act 2 story chapters. Okay. They appear in a couple of waves for events, that sort of thing.
So are we going to be fighting those in Agrius? Is that
I don't think so. I will post a link in chat that will help for finding these things and killing them fast.
Yeah, I believe it is Act 2, Chapter 8
maintained by
or 10. Yeah. So, yep. So you could find where those are located, because I have not seen them in any regular content at this point, but we do have 10 days.
I think they appear in a couple of the Dimensions End stages.
Oh, okay. Well, I haven't killed any of them, so maybe I did those before. So we also got Winter Chocobo panel missions, which requires you to kill the Flans, and of course that is the Winter Festival enemy. Use Faris, Lenna, Lilisette, Zidane. You're going to use all of those characters just by leveling them up through the various events, and use Ifrit and something like 40 co-ops and the normal kind of stuff. And that's the one where you're going to get your nuggets and your books. So and I think books may be on both of them. As well. So good rewards. Make sure that you do not miss out on your Chocobo panel rewards. We have 3 costumes currently you can buy. A returning costume for Squall, his Seed uniform, and a returning costume for Kuja, his Treno Noble uniform, his beautiful lady hair, and a new costume for Lenna, and it's just classic Lenna. So if you like classic Lenna...
I don't know what the official title of the costume is. I labeled it as classic because it looks like the way she did in Final Fantasy V when she was in her freelancer job.
So if you like that particular style of Lenna, then that is the costume for you. And those are all available, of course, in the shop. All right, so we did miss last week because of the holiday here in these United States. I hope everyone, wherever you were, had a nice time last week and were able to be out and with family and friends and such, or you just survived another holiday with family and friends. So a couple recaps. We had 2 events, the Deuce LC Chaos and, of course, the Ultimecia Chaos event as well. So both of these events, you can go, if you're struggling with the chaos fights, you can go to Macnol's Call to Arms on Reddit, MACNOL. I do link the index to all the Call to Arms, and you can see people who have submitted various different clears. Both of these were fairly challenging, and both of these took a little bit of work. I can just see just from the numbers that Kreese has put up for me that the Deuce LC Chaos has, on the Call to Arms, has 14 unique characters that have been used, whereas the original Deuce EX, when we had it in global, had 25 characters used, unique characters. So a little bit more restricting. And the Ultimecia event had 19, so a little less restrictive. But still, these early chaos fights are a little bit more restrictive than some of the fights we had, even when it was really difficult back then. So either one of you want to talk about either one of these fights, the Deuce LC or the Ultimecia event?
I think Kreese didn't get Deuce. Did you do Deuce, Mark? Do you want to cover that really quick? I'll get Ulti.
I can mention that I did get the clears on both, but I had to gem revive in both cases. I could not put together an appropriate team to get through without dying once.
So Deuce, you fight the stupid Krakens, and they're really, really annoying, and I hate them the most. So I don't know what you want me to say about it. I don't even know who I'm trying to find who I used to beat this event. What is it?
Yeah, it was
It's
so
not
long ago. I think I like
it's
blocked
not
it out of my
challenge, not
memory at this
governess of
point.
time. What's it called? It is gentle strength. Gentle strength, friends. So yeah, I brought Ultimecia and I brought Ace and I brought Charlotta and I brought an Ace friend and I killed them until they were dead. Yeah, I hate them, but keep them broken. Don't let them break you. Do terrible damage to them. These are resistant to physical attacks, which is why your magic options, of course, were Ultimecia, Ace, Deuce, Charlotta. Now you have Kuja. You can bring.
I don't think they're actually resistant to physical attacks. The problem is that if they
They
get
counter.
hit by a physical attack, they counter them, which purges all
Yes.
buffs the character
Correct.
has and hits them hard with a brave attack.
Now I did
No,
see.
I the chaos is highly resistant to physical. 90%.
Oh yeah, you're right. I
But they
don't
do
even
have-
consider it because of the counter.
They do have that counter ability.
Yeah.
Although I did see some clears with Warrior of Light on that as well, and you just kind of made sure to be careful when you use shield throw. But yeah, it's a pain in the butt, and it's certainly one of the more difficult fights if you don't have those powerful mages. As we're going to see in Dimensions End, you do need several powerful physical characters and several powerful magic characters and a good number of supports. And if you don't, you just may need to pass on some of this early chaos content and save your funds here. So yeah.
The only thing I have to add to that is there's a recurring theme from here and all the fights we've seen till today is that there is a lot of RNG, depending on who the Krakens were targeting. So if they double team someone, chances are you're not going to survive. If their turn orders are in a way that you cannot break them or delay them, there's a chance you're not going to survive. And there's a lot of manipulation of when their brave recovers. There's a lot of. I remember all I did was focus on not getting broken ever, like Mark said, and using AAs to make sure that they're brave. They unbroke so I could break them again. Because I know that if you enter a turn, they're targeting someone, they're not completely broken when the turn starts, you're pretty fucked. So I remember it's a lot of controlling breaks and using your AA smart and not getting broken. Do you want me to move on to Ultimecia?
Yes. You fight.
Yeah, go ahead.
You fight weird flying vampire mermaids. So
Fuck
that was
fight.
weird.
Jesus Christ. God damn it. So it's the same thing, really. So they introduced a new soft enrage for the double bosses, which I thought was interesting, but essentially work the same as the old soft enrages they used before. So since we're explaining terms, soft enrage means that if you do something the game doesn't want you to do, they will slowly crank up the difficulty and kill you. So as we've seen with a lot of our twin bosses, and we'll see in Dimensions again, is a lot of times when there's twin bosses, if you kill one early and focus it down, the other one will get buffed to hell and just start going haywire and murdering you. We've seen it in Fangs, LC. We see it in the Iguions all the time. And so they had a slightly different mechanic with Ulti's Twin Mermaids, which is basically instead of if you burn one, instead of the other one going haywire, if you got either one of them down to an HP threshold, both of them buffed up. So I believe the first threshold was 80%. When they use aqua power or whatever it is,
that sounds about right.
Yeah, the invisible buffs, and then the second
it's Reaper Rise, by the way.
Reaper Rise, thank you.
Reaper Rise,
and then
Reaper
the
Rise
second threshold is 50%, where they Reaper Rise plus, and their stats get even crazier. And every time they Reaper Rise, they'll do a huge battery, shooting up to 30k brave or something, and a ridiculous defense until you can break them, which is why you.
And they also put a loot on themselves for one turn, so you can't debuff them while they are that buffed.
Right. So basically, it's pushing gravity. So of course, Charlotta and Ulti were popular choices,
Yeah.
and saving your skills just for that. Um, so I mean, you could burn one down, and the strategy that many used was to burn one down eventually. But if you only focused one, you'd have to deal with a Reaperize plus second mermaid at 100%.
Right.
So while not as bad as the Super Berserk soften rages of other fights, it still kind of existed. But it was so that like you kind of want to lower them equally to like 50% and then burn the hell out of one and take out the other. The other thing to note is that they only do the aqua power self battery into death once they reaperize, so it's only like twice a fight, and you can really plan for it as long as you save the gravities and delays and breaks for that. You're in a good position. Otherwise, similar to the Deuce fight, it was a lot of watching their breaks, using AAs and free turns to manipulate unbreaks to break them again to make sure that they never were unbroken on their turn. Otherwise, they'll Brave plus HP kill you, which seems to be the theme this month. Any thoughts, Mark?
My comments on the fight are that in my blind run before I got a clear, I did not anticipate both of them Reaper Rising and Aqua Powering at the same time. So I died to being unable to plan appropriately how to shave both of them down to 0 before they one-shot someone, because they always targeted Ultimecia. Both of them would target Ultimecia out of Aqua Power.
My first...
I don't know if that's. I heard the break, when they target break, they target highest HP. I don't
And
know.
Ultimecia was boosted, so she always had the highest HP in my party.
Yeah. So I mean, I remember reading strategies about removing HP passives and stuff like that to manipulate it if you really need it.
Yeah, my first run was full synergy, and that did not work. So Pain was not holding her weight on that particular battle. So anybody else was fine. I think there are a few non-Ultimecia clears on Macnel's Call to Arms. So I do really encourage, if you're struggling with Chaos in general, we have some really good players. Strafe is doing videos. Jin Lee's doing videos. I think even Ink's got a few videos on there.
I will note that out of the 35 complete videos for Ultimecia Chaos, it looks like there are only 4 that do not have a Ultimecia EX Plus fully limit broken in the party.
Oh, Ragnamune say I got to complete
and
with
2
Pain.
of those have Squall fully
Yeah,
limit
right.
broken in the party.
Yeah. Ragnamune said I got to complete with Pain, Lenna, and Alti. So yeah, okay, yeah. Mix it up a little bit. And yeah, we have a few other friends. I don't want to leave anybody out. They're on the Call to Arms. Aerolite does things from time to time too. So, but just watch some people who have gotten good at the game and kind of see how they play and kind of, just kind of watch that. If you haven't done that, sit and watch a few of these fights, or, if you're struggling, just watch the fight so you can kind of see what the bosses do and how the mechanics work, and you maybe get a little sense of it. Generally speaking, it helps me just to run the fight once and just kind of not worry about anything and just kind of see how the fight plays out before I kind of go back and have a good good tackle on what's going on. So anything else about those two fights? They do seem like they were forever ago. There's been so much to tackle here and so much going on in a busy couple weeks. So, well, let's move to Dimensions End. So we got a new type of content, which has a new tab on our world map. Events, Lost Chapters, World of Illusions, Abyss, Beta, and now Dimensions End. And we got Dimensions...
I just comment and say that Dimensions End feels very reminiscent of our Abyss Beta, except with fewer stages, more focused content, and just getting to the hard and the meaty content.
Right. There's no filler levels. There's no mobs. Well, there's mobs in the actual fights, but it's a little different than Abyss. It is kind of a tower event, so you do one after another, the different tiers. So we got 2 types. We got Dimensions and Order and Dimensions and Pathos. Dimensions and Order had 5 fights. I believe 3 of them were EX and 2 of them were Cosmos. I'm just checking to make sure that's right. Yes, so the first 3 fights were level 100 fights. The last 2 fights were level 150 fights, or Cosmos. Now, each of these events, each of these tiers, to unlock the next tier, you have to get it perfect, which means you need the score, you need all the mission requirements, and once you do, all of your characters are locked out for any other tiers. You are also not allowed to bring a friend unit, which I actually like a lot. I like not having to rely on friend units, very truthfully, since there's just so much variation in different people's characters for this kind of content. I like that the event has been built with that in mind. You can bring a summon and you can bring any 3 of your characters, but no characters are synergy in these events. And so to get all 5 tiers in order complete, you're going to need 15 characters, 15 different characters, all able to do either level 100 or Cosmos fights. So that brings us then to Pathos, which is 7 tiers, has 2 EX or 2 Cosmos. What is it? 2 level 100s.
2 150s, 3 180s.
2 150s, thank you, and 3 Chaos. So you're going to need even more characters for that, 21 in total, and you're going to need 3 sets of characters, so 9 characters that are going to be able to tackle Chaos, 1 with physical resist, 1 with magic resist, and 1 with debuff resistance. So it takes a lot of planning, it takes a lot of foresight, and to get all of the rewards, you have to get perfects in all of them, and so have that able. The nice thing about this is permanent content, which means you will be able to go back and complete it later, or continue to refine your teams so that you're able to beat the content. But the rewards are ingots, and the rewards are obviously, well, the nuggets, which will make the ingots, and so it is good rewards, and so you do want to do it for that. So initial impressions, I think we did all, or maybe Kreese hasn't yet, but I think Mino and myself have completed both of the dimensions, and I think Kreese is close to it. If not,
I've done up through tier 5 of Pathos, and I can probably get the complete on 6 now that I have Kuja set up, but I just haven't had a chance to try it with the raid stuff going on right now.
Yeah. So, any kind of initial thoughts, or what do you guys think of this kind of event? Did you like it? Are you frustrated by it? You know, I know we pushed it.
I think this fight really echoes a lot of the comments we made before about Abyss Beta. The idea that this type of content promotes a diverse roster rather than a focused roster on only having 3 characters that clear everything. Having a large pool of characters you can pull from in order to complete content using different strategies. Since you're locked out of characters, you can only use them for one of the 7 tiers, and you have to plan accordingly or unlock and go back and clear earlier content with different characters to free up characters for harder content. And that involves a lot of creativity, making sure you're designing teams for every tier appropriately that leaves you the room to do what you need for the next tier while still dealing with the issues of the current tier.
I think one of the things that I know Inkwelder has talked about moving into this chaos area is the importance of support characters. Because there's a big difference, especially for your DPS characters, running without support. And so having the different tiers and moving forward into whatever the next tier of Dimensions End will be for us, which will be all chaos and go up to, I think they're at 14 tiers in Japan right now, in their permanent chaos event, permanent Dimensions End or Far Ends of Dimension event. So just the importance of having a support character for every team, and the importance of having a diverse team, so you're not like, you got 6 magic DPS and 1 physical DPS. So I think it does challenge you to have a diverse roster, and also challenges you to think about who you're going to pull and kind of where you're missing in different things. So, yeah.
I also think the comment about supports is an important one. Right now, we're pretty limited on weapon realizable supports available. It's really just out of characters that have weapons that can be realized, it's Warrior of Light because he's
Yeah.
tanky support.
Yeah.
You have Kryl,
Yep.
who is pretty much pure offensive support, and you have Lilisette, who is a defensive support.
Yep.
Those are your support options with realizable weapons. And you can throw in Charlotta because she came so late in the Cosmos era.
Yeah,
That's it.
you
I
have
only have one of those set up right now, so my support options are leaning back into what I had for the Cosmos area more so to try to get through these fights.
you have some late
I
Cosmos
forgot about.
supports.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Yes, Deuce is also a support that is realizable. But there are some older supports that might get the job done. Aerith and Afmaw and Sarah.
Ramza has been a popular one from what I've heard.
Ramza is very, very useful. Sarah, I used Ramza in tier 6. I used Sarah in tier 7. Realm, thank you, Triak. I was going to say Realm as well. So, I mean, there are a lot of those supports that you're still going to use. And then we're going to get a whole bunch of supports here over the next 2 months, including Y'shtola. And then we're going to get 3 realizable supports all at once in Setzer, Sarah, and Vanille. On a triple banner, so we assume. We will be inundated with some extra realizable supports because it does make a difference to have those extra stats and that extra stat boost and that extra power as well. But yeah, Selfie, thank you, Slide. Depending on your team, you're going to be able to fit those supports in. And I mean, we're seeing people just kind of talking about that. But yeah, the realizable, I think what Kreese was talking about for the chat, who's trying to figure it out. We have very limited realizable supports and really only one realizable tank at the moment in Warrior of Light. So again, moving forward, that's going to change. You're going to have a whole cadre of tanks. You're going to have a whole bunch of supports. You're going to have tons of physical DPS, magic DPS, debuffers, auras, etc. So Mino, any thoughts? You've been pretty silent on this.
Not really.
No, this was fine. It was easy.
This feels like a return to the early Chaos stages. Feels kind of like a return to early to mid EX phases where support options were limited. There weren't really auras yet. So you basically built for raw power in a kit.
Yeah.
And we're starting to get to the point where we have enough supports that are chaos viable outside of specific instances where we're getting back to that point, but we're not quite there yet. All of the non-realizable supports with a few exceptions do have drawbacks that don't make them, you can't point to them and say, oh yeah, you can use this for a lot of circumstances. You can use them for some, but not all yet.
Are we gonna cover the fights? Because I have thoughts on those, or should I just go get everything out now?
No, yeah, I think we should cover at least some of the fights. I do want to say one thing before we talk about the fights specifically. We could go ahead and each of us could share who we brought to different tiers. Even talking about a call to arms thing, or just kind of compile data. The problem with that is when you're talking this many characters, we're talking 21 different characters. Most of us are not going to use the same teams or have the same number of characters to be. So each one of us is going to have just a different enough set of characters and different priorities in those characters that it's going to be hard to go on YouTube and find, somebody who did, the complete run and just kind of cut and paste, where you might still be able to do that with this newest raid boss. Go on YouTube. Okay, what did Jin do, or what did Strafe do, or what did Soul DFFOO do, and just watch them and kind of copy that. That's a little bit more easy to do when you only have to bring 3 characters as opposed to bringing 7 different teams. Now you can go each one and build from there, but still, it does challenge a lot. And I can, right now, I don't know if you were going to talk about this, Mino, so I don't want to steal it from you, but you can see, I really like this. You can see how many of the players have cleared each of these tiers. And Mino did get confirmation that the percentages, if you go into Pathos, if you haven't been into Pathos, you go to Pathos, and you can click on the tier, and you can see it's cleared by, and that does not mean complete. That just means cleared. So that's Gem Revive. That's not getting all the missions, just cleared. cleared by percentage of players. So tier 1 is 84% of players. That is just the players who have started or attempted tier 1. So even tier 1, which is arguably the easiest of all tiers, has only been cleared by 84% of players. If you go way up to tier 7, and now you can unperfect your teams and go and try to complete some of this content. Tier 7 has only been completed by 9% of the players who have attempted this. Macnell's also saying he is in fact working on a special Call to Arms project, but it's obviously quite a bit more work than the regular events. And of course, this is permanent events, so I think we want him to take his time and do it in a way that he feels good about. So, but yeah, so this is super, super hard. Not everybody is going to beat it. That's okay. Only 9% of people who have tried it have beaten it. And, you know, that includes 2 of the 3 co-hosts and quite a few of our people on our Discord. So there's a lot of people out there who are struggling with that. And that's okay. We're going to get a ton of more characters and be able to come back and keep trying it. And it should be up. Well, it's supposed to be up permanent. They did say permanent. So it should be up permanently. The rewards aren't going to go away. I don't think there's any limited time rewards. Am I correct with that?
There are no limited time rewards.
So no limited time rewards. This is going to be up for, you know, you have a couple months. You're going to get those nuggets, get those rewards, you know, and take your time in it. The more powerful characters we get. So yeah, Mino, go ahead. Any of the fights you wanted to talk about or anything comments you wanted to make?
Sure. I got a few comments that will go into the 3 chaos fights right now. I think those are the only ones worth covering. I do want to point out, I think I really appreciate how GL implemented this. So as many may know, this was the Dimensions beta and JP. This is what caused a lot of JP players' anxiety because it dropped literally the same day or the same second that EX Plus weapons came. So, but it was 5 stages. Then they added like a stage every 2 months. So the 6th stage came 2 weeks later, and the 7th stage came 2 weeks later. So right now, when we got all 7, it lines up with the timeline. But imagine having the first 5 stages of this drop, and the only possible realizations were Cloud and Vincent, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Jeez.
understandably, people were flipping out. Like, understandably, people were really upset because they're like, this is content we cannot do. And then and then they felt like it was more pressure for them to pull each time a new realization came out just to get this done because it was time limited. In JP, this only lasted about a month, but then they added 2 more stages. It lasted a total of 2 months to get a potential 6 ingots. So, you know, people were understandably not happy. This has caused a lot of anxiety. So I really do appreciate that in Global, they've made it permanent and they waited until the end of its life cycle to drop it, where we have a lot more choices, right? Like, we definitely had a lot of tools to tackle this, and it's permanent, so we can come back. So, you know, feeling really good about that. So I'll have to praise Global for that. So let's get into the fights really quick. First fight, tier 5, was a magic resist stage with Turtle mini boss and the double lizards as the boss.
It was the fire lizards, right?
Yes, the Palom bosses. This was a big roadblock for a lot of people. That turtle ate a shit ton of turns. The defense was ridiculous. I think. Oh, and so Mark was saying that, it'll be hard to talk about the variety of characters used in Dimensions because of, you know, the roster. But for right now, if we're talking about right this second, there are a lot of very popular characters for each stage because I think the selections are very, very limited. So I know for this one, the king of the crop were free characters with self batteries. So I know Ramza was really big in this one. Charlotta was really big in this one. Selfie was really big in this one.
Wow. I didn't use any of those.
I used Cloud, Warrior, Light, and Pain for this myself to get the complete.
Oh, right. And of course, because this is the physical round, there's a lot of Clouds and Squalls as well.
Yeah,
so,
I brought Squall, Vincent, and Warrior of Light. So
Right. So it looks like the biggest obstacle here was getting through that turtle defense, and that
Mhm.
just meant a lot of battery, a lot of
Yep.
attack auras, and a lot of free turns. So I guess you're gonna do a lot of supports. I guess if you just got like Lilisette or
Oh
something,
yeah,
would probably be amazing
Lilisette.
right
Oh yeah,
here, right?
Lilisette would
Like,
be
yeah,
great.
yeah.
And because this is the next one is the debuff. So yeah, Lilisette would be amazing in this. She is physical damage and she has debuffs and she does tons of battery. So yeah, she would be a great option if you just picked up Lilisette. So
Yeah. People were saying Warrior of Light, of course. Yeah.
yep.
Because he self batteries and batteries the team and does his physical attacks.
Some
So,
people are saying they made out well with Fang here,
Yeah.
Zell here. So a lot of the strong early physical weapon realizations we got worked out well.
Yeah, and there was some conversation
mhm.
about Noel using his ignores uh, what he ignores defense, right? Is that his thing? I don't have him, so people are saying they used Noel.
Right.
Yeah.
Um, Anything else to add to that fight before we move on?
It felt pretty straightforward to me. I don't think I took any HP damage at all.
Mm.
It's really just you got to get through the turtle and then be
Yeah.
careful with the lizards. One thing to note about the lizards is once one dies, the other gets a
Yeah.
pretty hefty HP regen, so you got to be careful about letting one stick around too long after the other because it will regen a lot of health on its turns.
Yeah. And I
The lizards are a fight that veterans are very familiar with. We've seen these assholes a couple times now. You burn one, so the other heal doesn't do anything,
yeah.
and then they're weak enough because they don't get a defense buff; they just get an attack and max brave buff. They're weak enough that once their soft and rage kicks in, you can still burn the last one really, really fast. So
I think my strategy for the fight was to wait until they were about to buff themselves
Mm-hmm.
and then summon and just go to town on trying to destroy one as fast as possible.
Yep. I did the same thing.
yeah, basically. I mean, again, the only real threat is the turtle finding enough ways to battery and free turn past it. I don't think the final wave was much. Um,
Hmm.
Tier 6, the debuff immune tier. This was a pure DPS check. Like, I think that's all it was. There wasn't too much strategy. The bosses are really straightforward. You got a Skull Dragon.
Yep.
Everyone knows Skull Dragon does AoE dark attacks and a gravity break, right? Crushing Fang is it
Crushing
reduces you to
Fangs is
0.
100%
Yeah,
brave a damage and then brave attack, so it will break you unless you have shields, yeah.
right.
I,
I mean, I don't think anyone struggled to clear this. The complete was the difficult part, and the complete
I
usually
did not
came.
get the complete or the clear for this, but that's because I didn't give it too many tries beforehand. I'm planning to go back using Kuja instead of Alisei for this, because Alisei did not carry her weight.
I found this one to be the easiest of the tiers. I did not use Leon. Leon was a very good option, as people in chat are mentioning. Leon is a very good option for this. He can cheese several parts of this fight. I used Cloud, Ramza, and Charlotta on this one, and I burned through it really, really easily, under 50 turns. So I mean, I felt it was very, very straightforward. But people who used Leon almost had no problem at all um, with other powerful characters, obviously, but still. So
So to touch on that, it's the Skull Dragon and armor is very straightforward and predictable attack patterns. They hit hard. The clear is not a problem. The problem was the score because um, unless you're getting about 20 turns under the turn requirement listed, you're
yeah,
not getting the score. So what people did was they either loaded their teams up with free turns like Charlotta and Ramza, like many
yeah,
people were saying,
yep,
or they loaded it with launches
yep,
like Cloud and Dark Knight Cecil's very, very popular here. Like you just launch back to back to back nonstop just to get the score. And so this was a very strict DPS check. I think people were pissed because it's the first time in a long time where you had to artificially inflate your score to pass. Because I guess since Chaos is dropped, as long as you're under the turn count, you're fine. This one was pretty ridiculous. So I mean, it stumped a lot of people, but. If you're a newer player, welcome back to launch meta to inflate your score. This is the hell we had to endure for like 2 or 3 months, and basically once you know the trick is to just get your score up and aim 20 turns under the score turn if you don't want to by using free turns, then you're set. You just do a ton of damage and it dies. DPS check, very straightforward. You guys have any more thoughts on that?
Nope. All right, you want
All
to
right.
talk about tier 7?
Tier 7 is even a bigger pain in the ass. See, I mean, like, I complain about all these fights, but the thing is, it is permanent, so I can't hate. Like, you are meant to come back with better characters if you can't do it. And so tier 7 was a huge pain in the ass on launch. This has, I think, I did the work with some of our content creators to map how many unique characters we're clearing. I think it is second place to Lenna EX for the least diverse stage we've ever seen on launch. And of course, it's permanent, so it'll come back and that'll grow. But so this is the physically resistant stage with all three enemy waves except for a 2 enemy trash wave in there, but that doesn't count. And the point is, you need not only do you need strong mages, but you need a lot of AoE damage. Like you just need AoE damage. You can't bring any mage. You need specifically AoE mages, and we are on an extremely short supply on that right now. I think we had when we poured over the data, it's probably increased by now, but we saw 7 unique characters, and it looked like every clear we saw submitted saw some combination of Ultimecia, Ace, Sarah, Deuce, Charlotta, and I'm missing. Who am I missing here?
Cryle.
Kryl. There you go. Kryl was supposed to have knocked this out of the park.
Yeah, oh yeah.
And then
fully realized Cryle.
Yeah. Which apparently a ton of people did.
Yeah.
But I mean, it paid off for them. So
Paid off, yeah.
congrats. And I think there was one more, but
Well,
I think
now
outside
Kuja.
of those,
Yeah. Now.
well,
Kuja.
I mean, yeah. Now Kuja,
Yeah.
right? But it was ridiculous. Like this was holy. Because I mean, our options were really limited. And then all of these characters were 3-3'd unless you somehow had Sarah. All the Sarahs I saw had many cursed artifacts.
Yep.
If not a perfect set. Sure, and everyone was running full boards. Great artifact. Like this was a very strict requirement on launch. And again, I can't complain because this is meant to come back to like hell. You could bring Lilisette and Kuja who just came out, and they would probably add to the roster of characters I can complete. And I'm sure Agrius and Faris coming out Sunday are only going to add to it, but it was rough on launch. And it's kind of my fault for pushing to clear on launch, so I had a difficult time. But if you're one of those 7%, I'm sure you know that just like the other fights we were talking about, Deuce and Ultimecia required a lot of RNG when it came to turns, and like if you had all 3 of them targeting one person, you are gone. Or even worse, if they each targeted a different person and broke them, you were gone. The popular strategy was to stack so many saps and poisons on them with Sarah and Charlotta and Ulti that they always came back with 0 brave, right? But if they broke too many people and got past that, they're killing someone right away.
It can be real bad. Yeah, that's for sure.
But any thoughts on that, Mark?
Well, yeah, the turn requirement is tight. I mean, the first time I held out on it. I did. You can beat it with Ultimecia, Sarah, and fully realized. You have to book, but non-fully realized Ace. If you have great arts, Jin Lee did that. Same team has very, very good arts for all those characters. Obviously, all the summon boards, everything else. So it is possible. I did get close to beating it, completing it with that team. But now that I 3-3'd Kuja, I brought him back. And the first time I did that run, it was 66 turns. So, I mean, it was, just you really have to.
Power creep it, it's fine. I mean, I'm talking all these fights. I'm like, they're difficult on launch, which is fine, which they should be. But we talk about, you want to talk about the futures dimensions because in JP Timeline, a month out, they got the permanent dimensions where everything was chaos, right?
Yep.
So we talk about the difficulty and the roster of it, but I think in reality, you're only focusing on the newest stage or two. And I
Yep.
think like when power creep comes in, you'll see like JP loves to talk about how some of their characters can solo some of the earlier stages, right?
Yeah.
And or like how, oh, if you can't do it now, just bring stronger characters later. Like I really think like the strategy's there in the beginning, but if you really can't, you can always brute force it later. And like Mark's just saying right now, hell, you wait what 4 or 5 days, and Kuja and Lilisette can blow past the hardest stages right now.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and we're gonna. I mean, it's a few more days. We're gonna get some more characters, and a few more days. I mean, it's just that's how the game works. So yeah, I mean, I
Yeah.
wouldn't go out of my way to book or fully realize a character just to beat something today, because all that you're getting is
I
those.
did that.
You're getting whatever, but yeah, you're an elite content creator. You don't have a choice.
I think we
Oh
decided that
man.
Nino's the best out of the group of us.
No, so
Did we? Yeah, I thought it was Mark for sure. I invested too much in this because so I think I was telling our Discord, I deviated out of my plans 4 dimensions because I wanted the immediate clear. So I 3-3'd Squall when I didn't plan to. So that's 3 ingots down the drain. But I feel like we have a lot of ingots. Um, I fully farmed all the boards and spent all my Doja tokens to get artifacts for the final wave. And again, that's just I mean that's something you should be doing, I guess. I
yeah,
just don't like farming. And then a lot of resets, but it happened. And I don't recommend it for everyone. If I go back in time and tell myself not to do it, I would, but I'd still do it anyway. I don't know. I have problems. But Mark,
yeah.
do you have anything to add to what we have on all of Pathos?
Well, I enjoyed it. I think it was challenging and not too ridiculous, but yeah, I like having to think about who I'm going to use. My problem is I tend to approach the very first tiers with like the most ridiculously underpowered
Oh,
characters.
same. Yeah, yeah, me
And,
too.
and so like the tier one is like the hardest because I'm bringing just complete trash
I
characters
know, me
characters that are just not useful at all. I'm like, I can get through this with, I think Yida can solo this. No, yeah. So
I get the feeling Yida solo did not work out for
no,
you.
no. I did bring Yida, and I had to go back because I had Kuja and Lilisette both on tier 1 and 2, so I had to go back and undo them and redo those so I could bring Kuja on tier 7. So yeah,
Oh, we skipped this. Jake is
yeah.
asking. We had a lot of inquiries on what did the hosts use their EX tokens for. Kreese, did you spend yours yet?
I have not. I've been suffering from a deficit of power stones for
Yeah.
a while now. While I had to spend 50,000 gems for Ultimecia's X, I did not get her 35 CP in the process.
Oh, jeez.
So that was 25 power tokens down the drain,
Yeah.
and then another 12 power stones down the drain just for that. So
Yep.
I've been having
Oof.
trouble keeping my power stone supply up.
Yeah, my power
I'm
stone
starting to get there too.
my power stone supply is non-existent. I did collect because, like Mino, I wanted to make sure that I beat this content, and so my choices were between Zach and Ramza. I'm willing to pull on Zach's banner just because I do like Ignis, and I didn't have Ramza, and Ramza's good now. He's not going to come back again until much, much later. So I picked up Ramza and fully equipped him. Ramza's been fully limit broke since his 35 launched for me. I pulled on that banner way back. So I did finally get his EX and limit broke that and used him on tier 6. So I was glad
I
to be
think
able to use
Rams
him.
is a great
Yeah, and
is
then
a
I'll
great
pull for
choice.
Zach.
So you didn't do that on
Yep.
Yeah. I I forgot. I used EX tokens on Sarah just to complete the content. I didn't want to,
Oh
just
yeah.
like Kreese. I was so mad. I hate these cursed characters. I hate the concept of farming for these artifacts just to make them more viable.
Yeah,
And I wanted to pull
Sarah's
on her.
tough just because of the cursed arts. So
Yeah, yeah. Like
yeah,
I got lucky that I ended up with a perfect one after spending all my Adoja tokens and
yeah.
like another 108 plus debuff. So I was
I
like,
mean,
this is good enough. This will get me
I
through.
realized not. I mean, we're skipping ahead here, but I realized after I pulled Lilisette and I already had Kuja EX that Kuja and Lilisette did not have their boards done. So that's inconvenient. But you know,
See,
that's like 45 minutes inconvenient as opposed to the artifact grinding nightmare. So
Mark and Kreese have so much more. They have a better approach to this game. Every time new content drops, they're
More
like,
patience.
yeah. Every time content drops, they're like, oh, we got to go grind the boards. And then we got to go farm the artifacts and co-op. As soon as content drops, I jump right into the chaos.
yeah,
And then if I hit a wall, then I go back and grind those boards. And then I go again. And if I hit a wall, then I go for the artifacts. So it usually takes me a lot more tries. But you know they're very patient, so that's how you should be doing it. Oh, but I was saying with Sarah's EX, I wanted to pull on the future banner coming up. It's a really good banner. Setzer EX, Sarah, and Vanille.
oh, that's a
Very
great
good
banner.
banner.
Triple EX
Yeah.
banner. I
So
have all three of those EXs. Yeah,
oh,
they're
then
great.
oh, see, there you go. But I wanted a
that's
chance
a rough
to
week for
yes.
me in terms of realization and ingot use. So yeah, I haven't.
I like how deliberate you are with your pronunciations.
I haven't quite. I'm just messing with Eminosa here. So yeah, so I haven't quite mapped out that. Yeah, I think I did pull ahead. Some call me Brian. I think I did pull ahead of Mino in the EX race. So
fuck yeah, you did. I think you're wait. So last I checked, you were one ahead of me.
uh,
Coming into this banner, what did you get on this banner?
I got Lilisette, and I already had Kuja.
All right, so you're still one ahead of me then. I ticketed Kuja and I refused to invest in him. All right, Kreese, would you like to take us through the Winter Festival event?
It's so straightforward. It won't take long.
This 3-second segment. Yeah.
It is going to be very quick, though. What we get with this is a new co-op. It is pretty straightforward. It's the Flan Medley, which was originally featured in Garnet's event way back when. It's a Flan that, if you let it live long enough, and I don't think I've ever seen it live long enough, it cycles between weaknesses of water and thunder
What?
weakness and resistance.
It does.
I didn't know that.
Its adds
Really?
its adds die when you break them, and it dies pretty fast if you bring anyone with a realized weapon. For killing it, you get a lot of gold and silver tokens, which you can invest in a co-op shop that's available right now that gives you access to the usual suspects: tickets, gems, high crystals, high shards. But on top of that, we also have special seasonal rewards, including 15-minute 2x items. So you can get 15 minutes of double experience, double gold, double items if you want to use them.
It's nice for
They
leveling
will
characters.
last until the end of January, I believe. And along with that, we also got the Winter 1 Chocobo mission panels. So that's also a portion of the Winter Festival rewards, just to keep that in mind. Another thing to note is that every character is boosted for the Winter Festival co-op.
Yeah.
So have fun.
Remind me, is there
I've been running Fang myself.
There's a part 2 to this, isn't there? Or is there not?
Joshua said there would be possibly a part 2, but he did not have details on it during the live stream.
Well, I'm gonna hold on to my extra tokens because I have thousands of tokens. I'm gonna hold on to those.
Considering how fast they come, I'm not worried.
Yeah, they're easy to farm. I'm also
very low on gills, so I need the resources.
Yeah.
Oh, exactly. I was going to say the same thing, Chris. Basically, always happy when the ×2 15-minute items are back. That's much more tolerable grind than me. I'm going to be honest. Sometimes 30 minutes straight is too much focus. Too many times to count where I fall asleep when I'm trying to do a book grind before bed.
I will mention that I've used a couple of the double experience ones to level up this Awakening Wave already.
Me too.
So they've been really nice.
Oh, that's good.
Me too.
Yeah. And like Chris said, damn, do you earn a lot of tokens in this one, which I'm so grateful for because first of all, my orbs need replenishing. I ran out of both armor and weapon orbs. And now not only am I replenishing it, but they sell for a lot of money. I need to replenish my gil too. Everyone's running low on gil because of realization. Speaking of which, Red Kane, one of our regulars, he brought up a great point in main chord. I haven't had a chance to do the research yet, but maybe somebody can reach out and find out. Basically, he said that at this point of the game, or remember there was this controversy where our cycle quests were giving less gil than JP cycle quests.
Yes.
And I think Square Enix Joshua said it was because we had less things to spend gil on at that
Yes.
point. But
Well, there was also the artifact fusion gil pricing.
Yeah.
That was a thing, and that was resolved a month or two ago with a maintenance.
Mm-hmm. And then but basically that was just there to, I guess, inflate the guild cost. But basically, I think Red King claims we're getting less gil than we should, and now we've caught up to JP in terms of things to spend on because realizations are expensive, but we still have a handicapped income of gil. I am not sure if this is true. If anyone in chat wants to confirm or let us know later, please do. But that is the word that seems to be circulating right now.
We also don't know exactly when Japan got their gil increase in the cycle quest. Was it when they got the cycle quests released, or was it changed later? So there's a lot of factors.
I don't know. Oh yeah. Like we said, we haven't done our research. That's just apparently the word going around. So if anyone in chat knows, please let us know. And that will bring us to Awakening Wave 5. Star of the Banner. Who are we covering first? I guess let's Kuja first.
Kuja's the one who got the rework, so let's cover him first. Though his rework is pretty slight. It isn't massive like past reworks, but it's noticeable.
All right, take us away, Chris.
I'll cover Kuja. So changes with Kuja rework. He does HP attacks now with Ring Holy, regardless on whether it's the plus version or the normal version. He hits a lot harder. Brave Overflow is much higher on all of his abilities, or he gets Brave Overflow if he didn't have it before. Those are the big things. One of the most notable for me is that Ultima 9 now does better damage even if he's targeting a single target. So he kind of got folded into his passives now that he basically does additional brave damage with Ultima if he's targeting a single target, which makes it an actually useful ability when he's dealing with a single target. That was one of Kuja's big problems with Ultima in the past, was that it just did not do enough brave shave against a single enemy, but it was great against multiple enemies. And that's pretty much it. He got some stat increases, but they're modest. It's just some improvements to his attack stat. The big change came with him getting his weapon realization. So with his weapon realization, his AoE EX ability that does full HP damage to all targets hit at 0 limit breaks, so just weapon realization alone, allows it to overflow to 120%. His first limit break gives him an increase to his attack and max brave. Second limit break gives him an increase to his EX recast speed, so it goes from about a slow to a normal recast speed, which is pretty noticeable for him with his high speed. The big thing, though, that Kuja gets is that he starts with his unique buff from his EX ability called the Darkness of Eternity. Darkness of Eternity gives a party aura of attack and speed. He starts with that once he's at 2 limit breaks. And the bigger factor is that he no longer loses his soul cleave stacks when he uses his empowered abilities. This allows him to build up immediately and start going to town without having to wait until he gets his EX up the first time to do that. And at max limit break, his Symphonic Force's EX ability gets a couple extra brave hits, increased overflow, increased potency, and he also gets access to his Brave plus plus and HP plus plus. These basically give him higher potencies on his Brave plus plus at HP attacks. They do additional Brave hits, and his HP plus plus gets additional overflow. Lastly, he has his additional ability, which is one use regardless of whether you bloom it or not. Ability recovery attack up. On use, it recovers one use of Ring Holy and Ultima up to its initial ability uses, and he also gets an attack boost, which gets better if you bloom and equip his extension passive. So what Kuja ends up being now is basically what he always was. He's just a raw force of AoE damage with some solid potential for single target damage too. His single target damage is improved thanks to Symphonic Force being able to Brave Overflow, Ultima doing more Brave damage even if he's targeting a single target now. So he can hit very hard. I think a lot of the conversation we've had in Discord is that he's pretty comparable to Ace in just raw damage output. He can deal a lot of damage fast. He also provides, and this is important, and I think it's worth mentioning, because this is relatively unique to him and it will be unique to him for a while. He is a raw damage dealer, but he does provide an attack aura for the party. With our options right now, we do not have a lot of attack aura options that we can bring to the party. So just providing that additional attack in a chaos environment where defenses are so high really makes a difference. I have noticed it since I fully awoken him and started using him in chaos events, that he helps other characters do more damage than they were doing before. Problems are that he needs help. He is a selfish DPS, and he doesn't bring any debuffs. He is limited to his ability uses. While he has a pretty good Brave Plus and HP Plus now, you still don't want to rely on them. You'd rather use Ultima and Ring Holy where possible. You got to be careful of Holy Resistance or Holy Immunity, because that nullifies his ability with the most uses out of his whole kit. Ring Holy is tied to the Holy Element. So you got to be careful of all that. He has some nuances, or he has some niches that you have to be careful with, but he hits really hard in the right circumstances. I have tried using him in Dimension's End, and he does a lot of damage there in the right environments. So I think he's a worthy investment if you need a mage. For example, if you did not invest heavily in Ultimecia or Ace, or you did not invest heavily in both, he's worth considering. Do you have any thoughts, Mark? I think you booked him, right?
I did. Somebody was asking, who was it? CSDX, do we have Holy Imperil? Yes, Paladin Cecil is Holy Imperil. Back in the original run of Kuja EX, I ran Kuja, Paladin Cecil, and Ico as a Holy team, and that worked out really well for me.
Ico will be getting a Holy Resist down debuff with her EX in a month or two, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, and
I think it's 2 months
Saban
away
gets
now.
one as well too. So
yeah. People are saying in chat, I just want to back up my favorite characters. Shantoto does have the Holy Imperil right now. Saban does have the Holy Imperil right now. So go ahead and bring Saban, guys. To back Kuja up. Why not?
Yeah. So we were discussing because I was trying to decide if I wanted to go ahead and fully realize Ace or go ahead and fully realize Kuja. I like Kuja a lot more. I never played Type 0, so I don't have any connection to the characters. I do like Kuja. He's not my top 10, but he's probably my top 25. I think he is in my top 25 favorite characters in Final Fantasy. So, I was leaning towards him anyway, and I think their power is comparable. Ace has better potencies, a little bit better with his HP plus attacks, but there is a little bit more randomness, which
the
can
one
be
thing
good.
I don't like about Ace is the randomness of his EX buff. He cycles it every time, so you never know what you're getting, and you might get the wrong thing at the wrong time.
It's always a plus, though. I feel like with a kit like that, you plan without it, and anything you get is a bonus. Like that's how you should be seeing it, not like, oh god, I need
But
black.
the difference is that Kuja always brings an attack and speed aura.
Right. So I'm just saying,
whereas sometimes Ace has an attack and max brave aura. Sometimes he just has a self attack. Sometimes he has HP regen.
And sometimes
he does something
sometimes his healing aura can come in clutch. And sometimes the max brave is really helpful. But I mean, Ace is a great character and probably does edge out Kuja if you're just going for who's overall the best. But I really do think it comes down to play style and comes down to personal preference. They're both very close in terms of what they do and overall power. They're both selfish DPS. They both have AoE and single target options. They both have some party auras that can help as well. So I chose Kuja, and I don't think I will regret it anytime soon. Might end up doing all of them at some point. I don't think, as I've spoken to people, Japanese players of the game, I don't think you can have too many mages, as there tends to be more physical characters coming at us than magic characters coming at us. So
I think we should also reiterate that we're currently in an era where most characters that are getting reworked or getting weapon realizations are going to be useful for months to come. They
Yeah.
might not be the best for every stage, but you will find ways to make them work if you want to spend the time to do so.
Well, I mean,
I think Mito has shared that there's a player on the Japanese side that's made Kuja work in every event after he got his EX realization, right, Mito?
Yeah, I actually I know a lot of people were bringing their videos up in our Discord when we were talking about it. I haven't looked myself, so I'm not sure how much work needs to be put in, but it is possible. So, like chaos, as people will say, it evens out a lot more, and we're going to talk about that coming up. But holy shit, is it restrictive right now?
Yeah.
But holy shit, does it plateau later?
But yeah,
Because
I mean, think about it. The current Far Ends of Dimension in Japan is going on their 14th tier, so that's 42 different characters you need to do chaos events. So you're gonna use whoever you put ingots in. Like you're not gonna put them on the bench. You're gonna find a place for those characters regardless of who they are, because you're gonna need them. You're gonna need every character you have to beat that content. I mean, right now that's what 35% of our character base, 42 characters. So a third of our characters, a little bit more. So yeah.
Yeah, I think if you can plug in, even if these characters right now, if you pull Vincent or Cloud or whatever, and they knock out the first, if they can be used in any of the first like 5 stages of the permanent dimensions coming later, that's your money's worth right there. Right. I honestly think so. Like, but I was just gonna reiterate. I think I said this before. Chaos is the longest stretch of difficulty we've ever had in DFFOO. So it does become more manageable. Thank God. Holy shit, am I hating this month? And like, it does become more about team building later than just straight power. For the most part, there are a few spikes here and there. So
I think the major problem right now is just the lack of variety on the characters that are capable of this stat increase.
So 3-3, whoever the hell you want. Kuja and Lilisette are good picks. We're gonna start exiting the era that's insanely strict on this. But speaking of which, our next character is Lilisette. Mark, you want to take us away on that?
I do. I'm just reading chat. Vince is giving me a hard time of saying
Nuggies make the ig.
Yeah, so. Nuggies make the ignorance. Okay, first of all, guys, I just want to, for better or for worse, to clear it up, Nuggies is intentional. I still say Nuggies every time I'm talking about Nuggets. That's just how I like to say it. Ignitz was a mispronunciation by Mark. Apparently, both of them have been accepted by this community. I don't know which one is worse or better, but here we are, right?
That's right.
We're starting our own memes here in the City of Final Fantasy Opera Omnia podcast.
There you go. That's how it goes. We always got to find something.
Well, the question is, Mark, do you want to purposely pronounce it Ignitz now, or I guess people are going to hound you now? Like,
did Joshua mention Nuggies on the last stream? It's not official until he mentions it himself.
Yeah.
Did he? I can't watch the live streams at work. Yeah, we'll see.
Nuggies. So Lilisette did not get a rework. She really didn't need one. She's pretty great. We've been using her for a long time. She does a whole bunch of stuff. She debuffs. She batteries. She has super great auras. If you have her, you probably knew that already. If you don't, well, welcome to the party. She's pretty useful as a support character / debuffer / battery. What she did get was a level 70, and with her level 70, she did get, of course, the regular stats and bonuses and upgrades, and she did get a AA ability, which gives a battery, right? And then allows a bonus overflow to the entire party. It increases Brave to the entire party and increases Overflow if you fully invest in it. So it is a nice buff to the entire party. She gets 2 uses of that, and it is 5 turns. So all boost up increases party max Brave and increases Overflow limit. So very nice. She also got a EX weapon, which has an attack called Rousing Samba. That's fancy. And Dancer's Fury. So she's, if you watch it, she's doing all kinds of things First, she gets you comfortable with the rousing samba, and then she just goes crazy on and kills you. So it is an AoE battery first, which is 50% of her max brave. So max brave is important for this particular character. Most of her battery is off of max brave. And then it does a 3-hit brave plus HP attack, which can overflow and grants the framed buff Rousing Samba. What does Rousing Samba do, you say? Well, it gives max brave up and party-wide critical hit rate up 100%, and also increases the party's overflow limit even further by 20%. So she has a 2 stacking overflow up, which is nice to her total party auras and buff. She gives, if you have all of her Moonshade, Butterfly artifacts, and all of her other things, she ends up giving attack buff, max brave buff, int brave buff, speed buff, defense buff, critical rate up, and overflow limit. So she buffs everything. So that's really, really nice for her. She also gets an EX realization. Now, a lot of people who have her at 1 ingot or ignite used, and so the just base realization allows Dancer's Fury to overflow even more, up to 180%. But at 1 limit break, she gets an attack boost, a significant attack boost, 40%, and a Brave plus plus and an HP plus plus unlocked permanently. There's nothing, no conditional. You start with them. Her Brave plus plus is a 2 hit Brave. That is an AoE battery, 20% max brave, so it's a battery for everybody, plus it does a couple brave hits. It's not doing great brave saving because her attack's not great. And her HP plus plus is interesting. It is a 1-hit brave plus HP that does a heal to herself, 10% of the damage that she did, and then does an AoE battery, 20% of the damage dealt. So, oh no, it's just her heal just heals 10% of that. Is that correct? I'd have to look. So I thought it was based on the damage.
Yes, she heals herself for up to 10% of her max health based on the HP damage she dealt.
Yeah. So both of those are very useful.
I'd like to note about Lilisette's auras is that the only conditional is that she's above 50% of her max HP. So be careful. It might become deactivated at inopportune times if you're taking a lot of HP damage.
So she does have the ability to heal herself a little bit, which is very nice. But yes, you have to be above 50% of your health. But you don't have to do anything else. So they're not, related to any other kind of buff or debuff or anything else. If you want to invest 2 ingots into her EX, you start the quest with Rousing Samba, which for a lot of fights is not going to be a big deal. And then if you fully limit break it, Dancer's Fury becomes much more powerful, and Brave Hit count turns to 7, and Overflow is up to 200%. Because Lilisette is not an attack unit, you're not bringing her in the party to do massive Brave shaving and damage. I really think you can settle in with 0 MLB or 1. I think 1 is nice. You're not going to use her Brave plus plus and HP plus plus a lot, but when you do need to use them, it's nice to have those upgraded abilities. And the 40% to attack is really nice as well. So if you're going to invest in Lilisette, I would encourage 1 out of 3 ingots. But if you do go all the way into her, she gets a C Sphere, and after inflicting a debuff, AoE battery 5% of each party member's max brave. So that's kind of a nice little support sphere for her or anybody else who debuffs. So that's Lilisette. I have her at 1 out of 3 limit breaks of her realization. I really like her. I liked her before. Mino made me pull for her back in the 35 era, and I have never regretted having her on my team. And I use her.
I got Lilisette on her Awakening Wave, and I used her a lot when she dropped, and she's still part of my team that I use for clearing trash waves because of that passive aura that's active from the get-go. She makes it so that twins are guaranteed to kill everything, even on the highest difficulty stages for trash. I will also mention that I did pull her EX with tickets, but I have not invested in it at all because of the aforementioned Power Stone shortage I'm suffering from, and the fact that I'm afraid if I get too lucky on Sunday's banner, I will not have the Power Stones to actually level or invest in Faris and Agrius right now, so I'm waiting.
Yep.
So I think I'm the only one here who doesn't have it. I wanted it. I like Lilisette as a character. Didn't get it, so I'm bitter. So let me cover the negative sides of Lilisette now to make myself feel better. One is I believe she does a total of 4 debuffs, correct? To enemies. Yeah, and I think that is starting to become less valuable as time goes on, because as we're seeing with a lot of these chaos bosses, they're either cleansing or they're buffing themselves with enough buffs or framed buffs to push stuff off. So I don't think you will be reliably able to hit the 4 every time. And even if you are, all of these chaos bosses are at least resisting some of these stat downs for sure. So that's why I'm a little iffy on if she's the end all be all debuffer, since we have Faris on the horizon as well, who also cleanses. So this will be an interesting debate we'll have next time. And the other thing is, well, I mean, we're gonna segue right into this fight soon, but I was gonna say I feel like we talked about Ace versus Kuja, and now we're talking about Lilisette, and I feel like this fight really, really did a good job of synergy bias. Like, I feel like it makes them look much, much, much better than they would. I don't think a lot of people have tried these comparisons in a non-synergy, because we were just discussing before the show that holy weakness the boss has. Damn, does that put Kuja above Ace in this fight? Like, hands down with the synergy. And with Lilisette, she is giving the entire party a full battery every skill too, or just like an insane amount with like at least 50% from her brave pluses. It is high. Like, I think they're looking very strong. But do we want to get into this fight, either of you?
Yeah. It's
Mark and I have only been able to give it one shot each, and both of us got the clear. Me through Gem Revive. I think Mark through.
It was a long 109 turns, but we did beat it. Yeah, I'm pretty sure I can go back and do it again, but yeah, I brought.
Oh, wait, what's this about Inkwelder having something to say? He wants to debate this. Oh, okay.
Yeah, so
All right, Ink. Let us know your opinion really quick in chat before we move on.
Or jump in voice and tell us.
Let's stay off the record. Link, type it out. Type it out right now. Be like Backnell, where he spammed me with an essay on stream last time. But I'll start covering the fight, Ink, and then when you get your share in, we'll have
Hey 13 says stop bringing Ifrit to the co-op.
Yeah, that is the point. Do not bring Ifrit.
Don't bring Ifrit to the co-op. The boss has a mechanic.
Who do not know the history surrounding Soul Cage. Soul Cage was a boss in Final Fantasy IX that became more dangerous when it was set aflame. And you had Vivi in the party at this point, and Vivi probably his strongest spell was Fyra.
Yep.
So you were set up for disaster. If you avoided using fire, you were good. In fact, for Soul Cage in this event, you can turn off his flames by using ice attacks.
Yep.
So that's the Palom synergy thing, and also Shiva makes a pretty good option.
Oh yeah. So wave 1 first. It's a 2-wave fight. The first one is the all too familiar Wraith Priest, but I think this is the tankiest we've ever seen Wraith Priest. So he used to be a minor inconvenience. Now he's the most annoying part of the fight for me. I feel like, talking to a lot of people, we're seeing a trend where this wave 1 boss was more trouble than the actual boss. Wave 1. So, all right. So, I mean, you guys have both done wave 1. So correct me if I'm wrong here, but I've run it with a bunch of teams, and I've talked to a bunch of people, and even our best content creators, I feel like Strafe and Jin, who make all the complete videos ASAP, they have said the same, where they have had to reset on this wave a bunch. I think Strafe was so pissed that he didn't even record the first part, the wave 1 of his first fight. Like, he forgot, or like he reset so many times that he just didn't capture it. He went back and shared it later. So he went back and he went back and redid it. Yeah. He did it. But the point is, the first time was so frustrating for him. He just did not even capture it. And so apparently what it is
let me just put it this way. On my blind run, I think I was at 45 turns when I finally killed the boss, just because it revived twice. I could not kill it fast enough.
Oh yeah,
it is a piece of
think
shit.
mine revived 3 times.
It is a piece of shit. Let me tell you this right now. So Wraith Priest gets, I think, 3 actual turns, not counting his first disappearance and his Hastiga. He gets 3 actual turns where he does he casts, I think he does a Darka Brave hit, then he does a Brave regen, and then he'll do an HP attack. I believe that is always the pattern.
It is always the pattern for what I've seen. He does it in that specific order, which means if he gets the HP attack, he's at very high Brave, because you cannot shave that.
Yeah, Strafe is confirming in chat. Yes, I was so frustrated. I deleted that file, and I deleted that file by mistake. But basically, so it is a very set pattern. In 3 turns, it will always HP attack you. Because it's invisible, you can't do anything about it. It will always Darka, Brave regen, and then HP attack. And because you can't affect him, he will always do... So if you're bringing, like, say, Warrior of a Light, and you're canceling his Brave gain from his Brave hit, he will do close to 11k HP damage. So here's the first part of the RNG. You need a character being targeted to take 11k HP damage off the bat. Like, did you guys survive this? Did you guys luck out and have
once, and I think it was who was it on?
I don't remember who took it,
but I survived it.
Yeah, I don't remember taking damage from him.
Okay, so
I think my Ultimecia
is that after the first?
No, that's impossible. Ultimecia. No. It is his 3rd turn in the fight. Period.
Oh, I know why I survived it. I know
synergy character, right?
What happened? It was Ultimecia, but he didn't get it off the first round. I was able to stop him from doing the HP attack. After the first revive, he got it off. I couldn't kill them fast enough after the first revive because I was trying to conserve ability uses. But Ultimecia had her sap on, so he was losing Brave every turn, so she was able to survive it.
Okay, good. So what you did is you killed the first round of ads so fast that he couldn't get it off the first time. That's a good strat. So what a lot of people are doing is they are praying he targets a synergy character, because only synergy characters can have that high. Unless you're Wall, you have like 11.1k HP and you survive with like 100 HP or something. But that's the first level of RNG where you have to pray it hits a synergy character, which is how synergy bias this whole fucking event is ridiculous.
I did bring full synergy, so that was probably part of it.
Right. And then so there's that. And then the second, so that's only if he doesn't get any Brave increase, right? Like that's only if you bring wall shields, your shields don't get pierced and he doesn't gain any Brave. So if you don't have that and any of the 2 ads break any of your characters, then boom, he gets enough Brave to one-shot anybody on the field. So if you're broken at all, he will kill you on his 3rd turn. And then to make matters worse is if you try to like play defensively and build up your Brave so you don't get broken, then you're going to be 2 behind on turns to complete this fight. Like, it is such a bullshit first wave. It is ridiculous. And Lilisette is the MVP here because she just debuffs them so hard and saps them so hard that they'll hit for wet noodles and they won't break you, right? So you get a lot more options. But if you don't have Lilisette here, holy fuck, is this wave trash. And then say you kill them, and you want to conserve your skills as much as possible because we'll get to Soul Cage. He's a massive tank, right? He's just eating abilities left and right. So you want as many abilities as possible. But so if you kill these ghosts, if you don't kill the tanky ass White Priest in one go before he revives, that's tacking on at least another 10 to 15 turns, right? So the popular strategy here has been getting your friend out wave 1 to kill this White Priest before he revives, and that usually means a Cloud friend for the paralyzes, or I found a Quistis friend works for the pushback, or some people bring a Kuja friend, and I'm unlucky. I have not been able to find a Kuja friend at all, but a 3/3 Kuja friend can apparently take out the ads in like 2 turns.
Yeah.
So that's like a non.
I'll set my Kuja as a friend.
I need to change my support.
Thank you.
Well. I'll do that right now.
But the pattern here is, if you have Kuja and Lilisette, this is a much, much, much easier fight. Without it, this is hell. Okay, but moving on from this shit-ass round is then you get to Soul Cage, and we've talked about that. Soul Cage is just tanky as shit, and he has a couple of mechanics. Luckily, he is predictable because he has that meter building on him as you attack him. and if he's targeting all, it'll always be a full brave hit that is decently weak. Maybe 6k damage. With Lilisette, probably like 2k, I'm sure. Like, it does nothing. As long as you don't get broken, you're fine. If it has any HP, it'll try to do the HP attack. And if it's broken, it will try to do the big brave hit of, what's that? Mustard Bomb? With the debuffs, the defense down debuffs. So you
Almost
can.
everything does debuffs. I just
Oh,
Yes,
okay.
yeah,
Lenna was
he has
always
several attacks
here.
that he debuffs. Yes.
Yeah. So I mean, his attacks are very manipulative. You can manipulate them very easily, and they're very predictable. The problem is, and then once you build his meter up, he'll target all and do a Brave plus HP with the like 4 debuffs or something. That's the killer. And then you have the fire that increases all the stats, and then he lowers int Brave. So, regens are rough, wall shields are rough. And as Kreese said, if you have a readily available ice attack, you can eliminate his flames, buying you some time. So he isn't super buff the whole fight by invisible buffs. But then from then on, it's just a marathon slog. Just make sure you know what you're doing, spend your skills effectively. You get 105 turns, which is, a lot longer than all the chaoses we've had so far. But everyone recommends you get into wave 2 like 30 turns or so. So it's a marathon run, hell of a fight. And I think I've been complaining to my co-hosts a lot about this fight because a lot of people hate this month, understandably so. I understand it. Deuce Chaos is not fun if you don't have synergy. Ultimecia is not fun without synergy. The dimensions are rough. Without synergy, you have to really struggle through, rely on RNG. But all of these fights are permanent. No, I take that back. Ultimecia is temporary. That's a bullshit
This
fight.
is not permanent either.
Yeah, but I'm saying this one pisses me off because it is so temporary as well. Ultimecia, I cut a little slack. I shouldn't, because everyone in Global is pulling for Ultimecia, right? Like, we've known ahead of time that's how it was going to be. But Ultimecia is a great character. What I have a problem with this fight is that Lilisette and Kuja practically trivialize it, but they're not the best meta characters. They're good characters, they're fine characters, but no one you go out of your way to pull just to complete this one fight, because I'm pretty damn sure I can guarantee that they're not going to be doing wonders or carrying you through the Agrius event on Sunday. Like, they're not Ultimecia level strong, where you're like, okay, well, I pity this character is going to have a lot of mileage on me. I feel like this
Agrius has a lot of quirks for her fights, anyways. That
exactly,
are gonna make
right?
a lot of characters useless.
Yeah. And so I really have a problem with this fight because it feels like the synergy bias is so strong. And again, I'll agree. Ultimecia, the synergy bias is insanely strong there too. But I feel like you can kind of finagle your way through that with Charlotta's gravities. So you don't need Ultimecia's gravities. Charlotta has a lot of free turns and gravities as well. Here is, as Mark and Kreese have been saying, you have very limited options when you come to competition for like Lilisette, because she's our biggest debuffer support. I don't think we have any replacement for that right now. Like, no competition, period. And the other thing is Kuja.
And she's not even that great at it. It's like part of her job, not her primary job.
Right. And then Kuja may have competition. We were talking about Ace and Ulti, and Ulti's great here too, but the holy weakness really clinches him in so that he can ignore any stat boosts or debuffs thrown around in this fight. Like, who was it? I think Mark was saying he was doing like 200k damage a turn with Kuja on the EXs. Like,
Kuja can do insane amounts of damage.
Yeah,
especially
it's
in
really
summon.
ridiculous. Yeah, it's freaking ridiculous.
That's synergy bias in summon, but
synergy bias plus, I'm sure, hitting weakness.
No. Oh yeah, with
Holy Ring, I was almost all Ring Holy.
Oh yeah,
I mean,
Ring Holy was always
99.
This was with Ultima, and so it's not weak to ice, is it?
No, it's not.
It's not weak to ice.
So
that
was not weakness.
You still get the extra max brave.
Yeah, that was not weakness because it was Ultima.
Yeah, but I mean, this is I'm reaching my end. I know Agrius is the last part of the Hell month, but these fights have been brutal. And like, I feel bad because I see a lot of long-term veterans and content creators starting to burn out on the game because of this month as well. It is very restrictive. Edo was asking at the beginning of the show, uh, Deuce Chaos feels less restrictive than Deuce EX. And as Kreese said, in Deuce EX we have 25 unique characters recorded. In Deuce Chaos we have 14.
Yeah.
In Ultimecia, 19. These are very, very slim numbers. Compared to when Deuce and Agrius EX first appeared, these chaoses are much more limiting. And it makes sense because this was right after a roster reset, right? Like you didn't have a roster reset when the EXs came around. Here, you need the EX pluses. And we have never seen this level of restriction since Lenna that Hell month. The GL exclusive Hell month was terrible. JP was right to say that this was the worst time of DFFOO because they didn't have that shitty Lenna EX Hell month. They had this, and this is close to as bad, and it's really, really bad. So I understand all the frustration. It's supposed to end after Agrius, guys. The Machina event is supposed to be the beginning of where they ease up and not like throttle the hell out of us. But I mean, Kreese, how are you feeling about this? Since you didn't want to be forced to invest in a lot of characters you didn't like, right? And
I'm taking the gem revives. I'm wasting a couple of hundred gems if necessary to get the revive and moving on. And I'll save my gems to not invest in other characters and save them for the next banner because the next banner is the one I'm heavily investing in.
and Mark, how are you been feeling about this too? Like CC, like Kreese is understandably Kreese and Arrow are taking the minimalist route. They've adjusted
I'll just
their
mention
expectations.
that the Hell month, the EX Hell month of this variant, killed me too. I was struggling with that. I did not complete Deuce EX and I did not complete Agrius EX. I think I got clears, but that was a fight, and I fought tooth and nail for them. And I was considering quitting at the time, so I'm just accepting that this is the state we're in right now, and I'm just going to move past it.
I mean, yeah. The good thing is, so I mean, GL almost rioted when we were in Lenna EX Hell month. Like like people were quitting and people were pissed, and understandably so, because we didn't know what the hell to expect in the future. The early EX thing was a GL exclusive thing.
Right.
I think it's a little more tolerable now. I'm not saying it excuses it, but it's a little more tolerable now because we have foresight and we know this is temporary and it's going to end. So I think people aren't as freaking pissed as they were back then. But this is bringing up flashbacks of when the game was just not fun. I don't blame people. They're really pushing for synergy bias this whole month and a half. Mark, do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, we got 4 other characters to talk about.
Oh yeah, let's cover those awakenings really quick. Sorry,
Kreese, are you going to cover those awakenings for us? The rest of the
you'll have to give me a minute because I forgot they were there.
Sure. We just need AAs and 68 passives.
I'll do them one at a time, and I'll let you guys chime in as I pull them up one at a time.
Okay.
So biggest character, probably the one that will be the best, is Lenna. She got basically an additional ability that she can get up to 2 uses thanks to blooming it. It raises the party's brave based on her max brave. The party gets a max brave boost for 5 turns with bloom. And that's it. It's pretty simple. Max brave and a small party battery if she does that appropriately. Rydia is probably the second most popular out of this awakening wave that did not get realized. She raises party's weakness damage or ability to deal damage to weaknesses for a couple of turns. With bloom, that is 5 turns. And if you get her extension at 70, it increases the party's overflow limit for those 5 turns as well. Give me a second to pull up the others. You can talk over me.
Yeah,
Mark, chaos impressions while Ink pulls up the research.
Yeah, well, there's, Hate 13 made a comment about, feeling like I have a diverse roster, but struggling just because of the difficulty. I think some of it is RNG. I think we've talked about this. So if
Oh, I
you're
definitely think there's RNG involved
if
in all of these fucking fights. Deuce is infamous for it, right? Yeah.
yeah, if you're not trying it multiple times, you might be just not finding that right time. Now you might, some people just may need to kind of up their game too. And you can't just power through all of these fights. You have to,
Complacency's been a real issue.
yeah.
Okay, I'm ready if you want me to
Yeah.
cover the
Yeah,
others.
go ahead.
Sure, go for it.
I apologize for doing this kind of weird. I forgot about them completely.
It's okay. It's an important thing we get it in.
Zidane, he got his rework recently. His EX is still kind of iffy, just because it doesn't do a lot of brave damage in the process. But his additional ability, it raises his brave based on attack and gives him brave flow overflow for a few turns, increases it. With his Bloomstone, he gets 2 additional uses, and if you extend it, he gets an attack increase. Palom actually gets one of the nicer additional abilities. It's a Brave plus HP attack that raises his attack for 1 turn. If you bloom it, he gets an additional use, and the attack lasts longer. And if you extend it, it gets an increased attack up effect. So it's nice. We are sure that Zidane was in this awakening wave, Jake. I forgot about it myself, but he is actually in it.
Let me segue really quick. Kreese, sorry. Amongst our complaints, Arrow and Macnil are backing us all up in chat. The leader of our hated enemies, the Tom Bear Troop, Inkwelder, as usual, being a smartass in chat, saying the game has never been more fun. Go eat shit, Inkwelder. Clearly, everyone else in chat disagrees with you. Like, like if you look on the Discords, the Reddit, and our own community, there's a lot of people really frustrated right now, understandably so. You have to acknowledge you are in the minority opinion here. But okay, but Kreese, continue on. Sorry.
I'm done. I hit all of them.
Yep.
That was all.
Oh, that was all
that
4
was
of them.
all of
Oh,
them.
that was.
Well,
What we
let's
can do instead is discuss the podcast
Yes.
polls channel that we have on our Discord,
let's
where we
talk
ask
about
people
that.
on whether you're planning to poll on banners. And as a new feature this week, we are discussing how much you are going to realize new EX Plus weapons. So I will go through the banners and then I'll let Mino talk about the realization numbers. How about that?
That sounds great.
Realization. Oh yeah, sure.
Okay, so for the big banner for this Awakening Wave, it was Lilisette EX, Kuja EX, and Palom 35 CP. 2 people said they were planning to pity on this. The majority of the people who voted said they were planning to use tickets, and a few were planning to skip it. The second banner was Lenna EX, Zidane EX, and then Rydia 35 CP, with most people saying they were planning to skip it, which isn't too surprising considering Lenna was a very hyped character when her EX first arrived on her last chapter. Zidane's EX has been present on 2 banners now, and Rydia's EX wasn't available. So again, I think those numbers kind of match up. Kuja's been available before. If people weren't excited for him then, they're probably not excited for him now. Lilisette is kind of a mixed bag. Some people think she's exciting. Some people think she might be overhyped. But she still seems solid for what she's doing, so people deciding to take it for her seems reasonable at the moment.
Covering the realization polls basically reflect what you've just said. A lot more people voted on Lilisette. The majority is interested in keeping her at 1-3, which is the recommended Mark gave, so that makes sense. A lot of people who did the research knows that. And with Kuja, there's a split number between 0-3 and 3-3. And I think that's because either they already had the weapon and they're just going to book it for the 0-3, or they're fans of Kuja and they want a 3-3. Basically, 3-3 is a recommendation, but it looks like not everybody wants to use Kuja, which is understandable. I'm sure a lot of people got fully realized ulti and ace. Kuja feels like a bit of an overlap if you have 2 extremely strong mages.
And I think we've kind of touched on what the co-hosts are doing, but I'll just reiterate. I 3-3'd Kuja. He's my favorite villain from my favorite Final Fantasy, so it made sense for me to do that. Lilisette, I did pull her EX, but I'm still not sure what I'm going to do with that. I'm going to wait and see how my investments go for later this month and what I decide to do before I decide whether or not to book her and invest in gets in her.
Yeah, and I 3-3'd Kuja, and I 1-3'd Lilisette, and I brought Lenna up to 78. Or 78, 68 crystal strength. So I will say we didn't really talk about the co-op. Of course, this is a raid event, which means there's a level 70, a level 100, and a level 150 Cosmos difficulty co-op. Yeah, the Cosmos difficulty co-op is not a bring whoever you want co-op. You do need to maybe luck into a decent party or be willing to have a different couple characters to fill out whoever random people you get, or come on Discord. We have some co-op rooms and you can go in. It's not that hard. You can solo this co-op if you have the synergy characters, but
I
it
will
does really
note,
help. Yeah, go ahead.
sorry to cut you off. I'll mention that Kuja helps a lot
Yeah.
with the Soul Cage wave because he can make sure that Soul Cage gets brave shaved when necessary. If everyone brings, and I will suggest this, this is a strong suggestion, bring Shiva as your summon, because in the Cosmos difficulty and lower, he is weak to ice. So using Shiva means during the summon, if you're doing non-elemental attacks, you will do weakness damage. Lenna helps reduce the debuffs you get. Lilisette debuffing everything helps a lot. A lot of the boosted characters seem pretty effective here.
Hmm. Okay. So we're running low on time. I think we only have like 20 more minutes allotted, 20 to 25. Um, we were gonna have about host ingot investments, but I feel like we can move that because we're always going to be investing every
Well,
week.
we've talked about it too. I mean, um,
Yeah. Do we
yeah,
have enough time to
yeah,
cover what
it's
we
fine.
wanted to talk
Yeah,
about with the ingot,
yeah,
the
that's fine.
purchasing? Okay. All right. All right. I
We'll
just don't
go
want to go
over
over.
time
Yeah.
if we need to.
Yeah,
Yeah. I don't. Okay. All right. Okay. So here's the big issue that the community's been talking about for the last 2 weeks since. No wait, shit, 1 week, right? Since we were off in Thanksgiving, that's when it dropped
yeah.
Black 5 Day.
Yeah.
Um, purchasable early purchasable ingot packs. There are a lot of strong opinions. Please, while I give the intro, everyone in chat, give your opinions. I know Macnol, Call to
Some
Arms
opinions.
creator, very, very, very against it. Has essays that he's ready to paste and defend his point. He really feels passionate about this, and we've seen it in main court. There's a lot of feedback everywhere, but basically, we were just gonna briefly touch on both sides, pro and against. And I think Kreese is arguing against, and then Mark will weigh in with his
Somewhat.
own.
I'm nowhere near as aligned against as Macnol is, though I will say out of the co-hosts, I did not buy any of the Ingot packs.
Mhm. I think we're all over the place, honestly. Like we're a good representation because I think Mark bought both, but he's passed on the costume because of it, right?
Yes, that is correct.
Yeah, and then I just bought everything because I'm a sheep. Um, but to cover it, so the big argument here is is this pay to win? And is this a greedy move on Square Enix's part to milk more money out of the player base, but with an artificial problem of ingot shortages because they didn't have to create ingot shortages? And um, does this set a precedence of greedier transactions in the future? So let me give a brief introduction, and then we'll go into it. But basically, I want to say most of us are no strangers to gotcha, especially us co-hosts, right? Mark's played a million of them. He's still playing a million of them. Kreese, you've played a lot of gotchas before this, right?
I've dabbled in some. The only other gacha I've spent reasonable amounts of time in is Record Keeper.
Oh, okay. So you played Record Keeper. Yeah, that gets pretty bad. I know Mark came from Record Keeper too. That gets pretty damn bad. But basically, we always talk about how generous DFFOO is in comparison, and so basically, let me outline the history of these packets. So JP got purchasable ingots 2 months ago from today. So basically, right before they got all of the burst weapons and the LD weapons introduced, the new tier of weapons, they got it at the end of an era, basically, to make it easier as they transition into a new era. What they got is they got, I believe, 5 packs a month. You can buy up to 5 packs a month. Each pack is 22 USD, and you get one ingot 5 golden power orbs, 6K gems, and four power stones. Shit, was it 4 power? Yeah, 4 power stones for $22. And I think a lot of people said that they would buy that. Would you guys purchase the individual ingots at that price? I think I would have before knowing about the GL packs.
Right. Yeah, maybe. Mm-hmm.
It's something I was strongly considering if our ingot packs were in that price range for that value proposition. It was something I was saying it would be something I'd consider and possibly buy.
Okay, so then
I'm leaning
GL's
towards yes, but not necessarily.
Right.
right. Like would you guys have picked like maybe one here or there if you needed to, right? Like
Sure.
if the yeah. So what GL is introducing their own pack, and I feel like it's very experimental because so they do it specifically on the Black Friday sale for a very limited time, and they did not say whether this was going to become a regular thing. But what we got were 2 packs. Each pack is 42 USD, right,
Yeah.
guys?
Yes, that's
Okay,
correct.
42 USD. You have 1 book, 2 ingots, and then a book pretty much equals an ingot if you're going to use it, right? So we can say
Right.
1 book, 3 ingots, enough to
Well,
fully
realize one
realize
character. Yeah.
an MLB from an EX plus from the beginning.
Yeah.
You also get how many gems? 5K gems.
5,000. Yeah.
Yeah, and then shit, was that it? I don't
Yep,
have it
That
open
was
in
it.
front of me.
That's
Okay,
it.
right. So if we take that at face value, it's 5K gems equals $25 USD if you're buying it on the sale, or is it not sale? I forgot how I calculated. Basically, $25 of that goes to the gems, and then it costs $17 to get a book and 3 ingots. And if you want to break that down, it's kind of like $2 for a book, $5 per ingot afterwards. I believe we've been told that books are basically worth more than ingots, and I think everybody can agree because they realize a weapon and you get an ingot from it afterwards.
Yeah.
So if it's $42 USD to fully realize an EX plus from nothing to 3-3, and if you go by JP prices, which people say are more generous, it's $66 USD to MLB it, and that's not even with the book. I mean, of course, books are more plentiful, but so I think from purely monetary value, we're getting the better deal with in GL. But there are some drawbacks to that. One is that the point of entry is $42, which is very expensive. That's probably costume packs we were talking about are like $37. So this is a big jump. It's limited time. They were each up for 3 days, and it was back to back. So you had 6 days to buy both packs. That hits very hard. I know a lot of people wanted to get them, but the time crunch was too much. And the other thing is they were selling armor ingots for the same price, and I don't think. Did anybody buy chat? Did anybody buy the armor
anybody
ingots?
want
We're
to
not even.
admit
Yeah, we're
that
not even
they
using. We're not
got
even
the
using
armor?
that in the discussion right now because we're just going to assume that that nobody bought those. But basically, really quick, Mark, how do you feel about the JP bundles versus the GL bundles? Do you think we got the better deal? Would you rather have that lower point of entry?
Well, I think in a perfect world, you would have moving forward now. I think in a perfect world, you would have a bundle that came with enough G tokens or enough gems or just an EX weapon. So the idea that you would be able to have an EX weapon and fully realize it in one package, I think would be the most tempting of anything. Or just forget the gems and go just with this, 1 book. I like the 1 book and 2 ingots much better than just 1 ingot running around. I don't see much value in that unless it's with the normal kind of sale packs, like, you get an ingot with your costume. If they added that in, fine. That's fine. But I do like the idea of having the book and the 2 ingots so you can fully realize a weapon. Again, the price is pretty steep, and I think it is a pretty big wall for a lot of people. Now that being said, there's a lot of people who are going to buy it, and that's okay. So
Yeah, you bought both. Would you
yeah,
continue buying both if this became a regular thing?
it's within my limit. So if that was a two a month thing, then yeah, I mean that's within my realm. But that's just me too. That's not and
Right, right, right.
that means I won't be getting any of the others either.
Right.
So
We're taking your perspective as somebody who regularly spends on DFFOO, so that makes sense. But Kreese, you refuse to buy any. Do you want to give your thoughts on that?
This whole discussion is mired in a lot of topics that I don't think we have the time to unfold
Right.
entirely. Number one, this is a gotcha. Number two, this is a free to play gotcha, which comes with a lot of caveats.
yeah,
Most free to play gotchas are stuck in a mire where the only monetization is what people buy inside the game. And in order to do that, most gotchas make every system as confusing as possible in order to make it seem like you need to buy something in order to get ahead. They also exploit multiple mechanisms in order to make those purchases appealing. Ways that have been used in other games that I have seen is making announcements appear in your game when someone else buys something,
Oh,
yes,
yeah,
showing
yeah.
having to do PvP elements. So you see
yep,
players who spent suddenly beating you, and now you feel more compelled to pay in order to get that advantage. Um, Seeing cosmetic alterations that other players have in your games. Um, these are all different mechanisms that are used. DFFO uses the cosmetic mechanism already.
yeah,
That's probably the reason the co-op exists. Partially, it's
Yeah,
not the
yeah,
only
yeah.
reason, but it's partially the
Right.
reason, is to incentivize you to pull for weapons because you see a player using a character and all of a sudden they're doing amazing and you're like, oh wow, I want that character. And you also see the costumes and you're
Hmm.
like, I want that costume bundle. The other
yep,
thing that these games tend to do is FOMO, fear of missing out. And this Black 5 day sale really, really dug into that so deep that it, in retrospect, it really makes me sick. You had a very
Hmm.
limited amount of time over
yeah,
a holiday in the United States to pick up these packages, and then they were gone, possibly forever. These were pretty
right,
substantial power advantages for players. While this is not a PvP game, we're currently in an era where the hardest content, chaos, is prohibitively restrictive enough that most of the player base cannot complete it on a regular basis. Being presented with a package that allows you to fully max limit break a weapon and do that twice over a week period is incredibly insidious for the
yeah,
reason that what happens is you're struggling with these fights and you see, well, maybe if you spent this money and got this package, you'd fully limit break a new character. You'd have the power now to complete that content that you're struggling with so hard. But you got to do it now because it'll be gone in 24 hours. You got to do it. You got to do it now or you're too late. It's too late to do anything. Oops, sorry you missed it. Oh well, you'll have to wait until next time, if there is a next time. The FOMO is really strong with this, and that's what I think is the twisted part of this event. Most of the costume bundles we've had have been 2 week events. You have time to look
yeah,
at it. You say,
yeah,
do I like the costume? Do I think the package is worth it? And there's also the peer pressure, which is not as bad in DFFO, but Macnol did mention it in chat, where right now the peer pressure isn't that strong. Unless you are heavily invested in the community, you don't see that peer pressure. Japan right now has an element where, depending on your progress and dimensions end, you get an emblem around your player name, which shows how much progression you've made.
yeah.
That will be another step in that FOMO, and
Yeah, I'm
it
glad
will entice players to pull even more and spend even more.
I'm glad
And
Macno brought that up
I
because I
want
think
to mention right now that up until now, Dissidia, Opera Omnia, Final Fantasy has been very good in avoiding most of these trappings. They've done what they've had to do in order to make the game enticing, and I've fallen for those trappings. I am not a perfect player. I'm trying to come at it from an objective point outside the game. I will say that there have been times where I rage pulled and then rage spent to rage pull further because, again, this is a gacha. It's designed to take advantage of gambling-like mechanics, even though it is not technically gambling in the United States and in many countries. It is gambling in the sense that you are getting a randomized reward for investing a resource into that. And that's a very powerful mechanism. Beyond that, the game's been pretty generous with the resources in order to invest in that gacha mechanic. It's been very, up until now, it has been very generous in resources that you could get through real life money. For example, Power Stones. You knew you were getting a reliable resource of Power Stones, and all you did if you bought a package that had Power Stones in it was it saved you a bit of time and a little bit of waiting. With this, it's not just you're saving waiting. You know that this will always be a restrictive element. Ingots will never become more plentiful going forward. You will always be stuck having to pick and choose and wait and struggle unless you spend that money right now. But if you don't spend that money right now, you missed your window. And I think that's the worst part about this is, one, the time element, that it was so tight that it forced a lot of impulse and a lot of snap decisions because you didn't have a choice. And two, the fact that we're working in an era right now where the resource has been so rare and so important that you feel that crunch and that strain so much more than you would have if this had been released 2 or 3 months later when we'd had a period to build up our roster of EX weapons. There had been more realized weapons. There had been more ingots available in events.
Yeah,
That was
I'm
very
really,
eloquent.
I'm really
Yeah.
glad you brought up, and Macno brought up the idea of the well, first of all, the missing out in the limited time. That's a really good point. But yeah, so a couple things in just the benefit of Squex and Defo. First, and we'll get back to this, it has not had any player versus player element. So there is not a sense of, or there has not been the kind of raid events. I used to play some games where there were raid events, and the best guilds in the raid events in mobile gotcha kind of games just cost money. I mean, like if you wanted to be the top 2, 3, 4 guilds or top 25 guilds who got decent rewards and good, better units, that those guilds just spent money on the events. Then they weren't getting anything. They were just playing more. So it was kind of that Candy Crush. You needed to pay to play, but you also needed to pay to win. And so that exists in several games that are out there, and big games too that are out there.
Sorry, Mark. I just want to chime in quickly. There's a lot of people that are contesting my opinions that what I said is not insidious and it's not a big deal. And I just want to say that this is my opinion. And obviously, I'm the only co-host who did not buy any of these ingot packs. So do not feel like you are in the wrong for investing in these packages.
No.
I'm just stating why I did not invest in them and why I think they might be a problem.
You're 100% right, because yeah, it's Black Friday. It's I mean, every store does that in America. I mean, our Walmarts are opened on Thanksgiving, and well, they're open all day now, but they have their sales now start at 5 o'clock or 6 o'clock on Thanksgiving. Like we don't even have Black Friday anymore. Like now we're starting on Wednesday before Thanksgiving. So I mean that's just our whole culture is like that. So it is insidious, but it's also it's insidious and everybody does it.
I just want to make sure people understand that I do not look down on anyone who did spend money on these
we
packs.
don't hate you for no, but
in the same way
yeah.
that the free-to-play, by the way, meme is bad, I do not think people who spend money and enjoy spending money on these games is in the wrong too. Would I like these games to be more reasonable in their and what they expect us to spend on them? Sure, but I do not have a problem with them monetizing these free-to-play games.
But so going back, there's no PvP, there's no ads in the game. This is arguably the most generous free-to-play game in existence. You can play this entire game for all of this time. I mean, we have all kinds of players who have spent nothing on this game, and who have all kinds of resources because they've thought about it and planned ahead, and etc. Or players who don't have any resources, but who have been lucky enough that they've been able to keep up with it and have fun, and vice versa, and everything in between. So there's a lot of going for this game. I think it will be interesting when the plates come, because even though it's not PvP, it is kind of community PvP in that, well, I want to make sure that I am set up as one of the better players, so I want the best plates. And if these, special, ingot packs come about during the introduction of the plates or the new tiers, then yeah, I mean, that's, that's marketing, right? But it's not, you're not winning any Nobel Peace Prizes for pulling that stuff. So I don't blame it. And I think my base opinion is, if you disagree with something the company's doing, don't invest in it. And if you disagreed with it to a point where it's very, very uncomfortable, then yeah, stop playing. But for the most part, I want the game to obviously continue. I like this game a lot. And people need to invest in it, because there's no ads, there's no, annoying commercials every 5 seconds you're playing. I've played plenty of games like that. And there are people that want to invest in it, and continue to support it. So
I will also mention, and this is going to sound shilly of me, so sorry, Mino, I'm stealing your shill spot for this episode, that I think Joshua and the whole Square Enix community has been very good with us. They've been very open and talkative, which I have not seen in other gacha games. They're willing to communicate and willing to get down on our levels and talk to us. And I think that's important to remember, that they want to hear what we think of these things.
Yeah, Inkwelder saying Japan got through all of this content without any of these options.
I'll cover that. Let me let me save on that. I'll cover that. But let me I thought I was gonna have a chance to jump, but I was gonna do the positive first before Kreese gave his negative. I guess it all came out very eloquent. The couple of things you guys missed in chat I wanted to address was that Strafe was adding on to what Kreese was saying, is the timing is particularly devious because of how ridiculously difficult and restricting and synergy bias these events are, right? Like, a lot of people said that if it came at the same time it did in JP, at the end, right before LD and Burst, they'd have no problem because it's not required anymore. Here, it feels like it's more required. It feels like it's taking advantage of more of the people who can't complete these chaoses, which is a lot of people. And CSDX says, well, buying ingots is like buying gems, right? No, because ingots are very, very, very limited. You can buy gems anytime you want and earn them left and right.
And I will also reiterate what I said about the packages in the past. With the exception of armor tokens, which are so plentiful, it's almost a joke at this point, no resource has been available in gem packs, other than costumes, that was not available in-game in some farm method.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so let me represent the plus side. I think we should have went plus negative, but here I am at the tail end with the plus side, which I don't know should be the last spot. I don't want this to tell everyone to go buy ingots, but basically a lot of people jumped the gun in chat here. I was going to cover a lot of this, which is, the first is that GL so far already in the first month and a half or so, we've gotten more limited resources than JP. More ingots and more books. I've done the research this week and confirmed it. Because of all these extra boards we're getting for the holidays and stuff, we are ahead of JP at this time in terms of books and ingots. And GL has always been more generous with resources, so I'm only going to assume that that's going to continue, that we will have more free resources than JP did. As many people in chat are saying, there are JP players who were able to complete all content with what they have. We're going to be getting more and the option to buy more. This is true. I don't think this takes away with how predatory the timing is. I mean, people are saying in chat, I agree with this. Like, this just means, hey, I can 3-3 favorites. Sure, but I mean, come on. Let's take a look at from a perspective of privilege here, right? Like, these are people like Inkwelder who fucking does the infographics and does like he spends his weeks doing research on the abilities and characters. So of course he knows how to get through with the minimum resources, and he's like, well, I'm buying ingots to favorite non-meta characters. Okay, but let's imagine 90+% of the player base is not as informed as Tonberry Troop, right? Like you cannot say. Think of it from a business perspective. Ink, you work in business. Think of it from a business perspective and not a player perspective. Like you have to know that this is taking advantage of the ignorant player base or the ones who cannot complete. You can't just be like, well, this is an option to 3-3. This is not targeting those people, although they are a bonus. But it's targeting the people who feel like they need it. The biggest thing that rang true with me, what Kree said, is the very extremely limited timing during the quote unquote sales period of Black Friday. And Ink says, "Oh, hey, we share our info." Ink, come on. We know Discord and Reddit is not the majority of the player base. Let's not be.
They've
let's not
also
be...
shared it on Facebook, and I think they've been.
Guys, come on.
That's a problem.
Internet community. You guys know what I mean. It's the internet community is a very tiny representation of this. And then so with that said, I will say that I like they do have like Ink has a point. Like it's for if it is extra, you don't need it, but I do think it does target people that do need it. But I will say that from another perspective, it is extra, so we have more options to do it. More options is always good because you get all the extra free stuff and the option to pay if you want to, if you need to, which is fair. But I mean, being a this is a rich get richer scheme where you need ingots to earn ingots to keep getting ingots. If you can't complete it, you're just going to be poor forever and ingot starved. Because if you can't do it,
I will note that we have had a pretty reasonable source of ingots, and I'm now contradicting myself a little bit, so I apologize. But the seasonal Chocobo panel missions have been a pretty nice source of ingots for the last month and a half now.
Mm-hmm. Right. And that's all extra from what JP got. They didn't get that till quite a bit later. See Sam saying, so are we saying Square Enix is evil or not? We're representing both sides. Like, the point is you make your own decision.
The corporation of Square Enix is evil, but the individual players of Square Enix might not be evil.
It's like the Empire in FF6, right? Okay, but anyways, the other thing is, I think what's really important for people to know is that a lot of the outcry is this pay to win? Is it fair to charge money for like this gambling thing? And what I want to say is, when I came into this, in my perspective, I'm very familiar with business models and how they work. I'm very familiar with gotchas. Like I understand the whole thing. Like this is a business; they're here to turn a profit, and it's only natural that they do this. And with gotcha, if you sign up, if you know what you're signing up for, it's not so bad. There are a lot of people who want to quit over this, but for example, Mark and I, we pay a certain amount to the game monthly, and we know what we're getting. Like we don't pay this amount and expect to clear all content or get all the weapons. Some people do, apparently. They're like, hey, if I'm paying money, I should be able to get all the premium stuff. It's a gamble in gacha games. And there's always the entertainment factor. I think we brought this up in the past, that everyone has different means of income and different budgets and different ways of valuing things. For me, it's how much time do I spend on this game? I actually spend enough time on this game that I don't buy other games, and I always price things on, how much time it entertains me for. If you go to the movie theater in LA these days, it's like almost $20 to see a movie. God, LA is expensive. But so like $20 for like an hour and a half of entertainment, whereas here I'm playing DFFOO an embarrassing amount of time every month for over a year now, almost 2 years. We're rounding the anniversary. This amount of money is fine to me, and I do not expect anything. I want to support Square Enix, and it's fair. The problem is that there are so many people who don't understand gotchas, especially in this game for some reason, because I guess a lot of FF fans don't really play mobile games.
I'm going to step in now and mention another Macnol argument. while the prices might seem reasonable to us in our middle class society, they might not be reasonable to people who are in the same strata of their society in other countries where prices are different across different media. For example, food might be very cheap, and for that reason, salaries might be much lower, but entertainment media might be much more expensive. And these prices do not necessarily account for those changes or those differences. And for them, 42 US dollars is an insane amount of money to spend on a package like this, to the point where it would be their whole month's salary. And that's another complication. In the US, it might make sense. Yes, it might sting a little bit, might be worth a game. For another country, it might be worth like a week's worth of meals or more.
And to be fair, that's not Square Enix's
there's nothing they can do about that.
There's ways to deal with it.
Yeah, no, but that's an issue.
It's not their fault, but it's something to consider.
That's an issue of
There's
globalization and inequity.
Because I believe they just convert the the worth.
It is an issue. I mean, it's a huge issue, but it's a global issue in an age of globalization that.
And this is a global version of the game.
Yeah, exactly. So, but yeah, I don't know. I mean, what, like you said, what they can do about that or what they can't, because that's a huge issue.
But so with everything laid out, do you guys think, I'll go with you one by one. Mark, do you think paid ingots is a good or bad idea?
Well, I would prefer, I believe the Japanese game kind of has a subscription kind of thing now. Where you get benefits throughout the month, that kind of stuff.
Thanks for the reminder. Before we go into that, let's talk about another one of Macnel's big points is it sets a precedence. Will they get greedier in the future?
Right.
So what we're looking at right now, what JP has shown us is that it might be a possibility because what they've just implemented in JP recently is a subscription model or something based on our own Kupo cards, which is called the Mog Pass. And what that does is it multiplies the amount of summon board points you gain and wild points you gain, which we'll get later, by a huge amount, by more than 2.5 times.
Isn't it double?
Yeah.
2.5 plus.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. And so it trivializes the summon board farming because if you run a ×3 book, you only need 3 runs to master somebody's boards. So it trivializes the grind, and the thing is that Macnel brought up, it's an artificially created problem, right? Because already now people are burnt out by summon board farming. I only do the bare minimum. So they've created so many and they're still going, and they created this convenient way to eliminate the grind altogether. But you have to pay for it. And that's a standard model. But the other thing is they have these things in JP now called character points. And they're basically like the new high crystals. You can only earn a certain amount per event or LC. It's a very finite amount. It is what they're using instead of level 80, they said in the JP stream. Basically, they're like, we're holding off on level 80, and what we're doing is we're making character boards. They're just like summon boards, except you have to earn character points. It's a very limited amount you can earn each event, and then you decide who to spend it on. And so the thing is, with the new weapons, for example, EX Plus right now gives people huge stats, right? Like if you get Cloud's EX Plus, it'll give you plus 40% attack, plus 20% max brave, or the opposite, or whatever. You get my point. Now the new characters, now that new weapons have come out, like the LDs, the limited weapons, instead of putting those stats on the EX Pluses, they're putting it on the LDs, the new weapons, to make them as more important. So new characters
for the LDs, basically.
Yeah.
You have to equip the LD passive, but still stick with the EX Plus because that's
right.
It's the better weapon. Yeah.
But basically, they're splitting up how they distribute the power, right? And it's the same with these character boards, where it used to be these awakenings and reworks gave all these abilities, mighties and overflow and different and more uses, and it's the same now. A lot of the new characters, some of their skills only overflow if you invest in their character boards, for example. And so this sets a precedence. And the biggest problem is with these Kupo, these Mog passes, is that it's a finite amount of character points you can earn. Having this pass doubles the amount you earn in a month. So imagine paying to double the amount of high shards you can get in a month, except a little more important. And that sets a precedence, right? Like going forward, they're starting to make you pay to get more finite resources. So it is a real danger to consider if we keep supporting this model. But yeah, that's what
but that, I mean,
Mark
again,
reminded
the
me of.
whole idea is that's how they're making money, and they have have to find ways to entice people to spend money if they're going to make money, because we're not buying games anymore. The expectation is these games that take tons of hours, and we have a game which has every week 2 new events basically, or every 5 days a new event. There's a whole team of people working on this game and who have developed this game and are continuing to develop it over and over and over again so that we can play it every day, so that we can play it every month. And
I just want to point out while we're talking about how we need to support the developers and the community managers and everything else, just be careful about going down that tunnel and believing you have to spend money on this game. Because I can guarantee that 90% of the money you spend on this game is going into pockets of people who have nothing to do about it.
Well, and
they're just investors. So keep that in mind.
I'm paying Square Enix Joshua's salary. I'm paying his paycheck.
No, but that's right. No, I mean,
what I'm hearing by
company,
buying my
the company
gems.
is.
So what you're saying is we need to do a GoFundMe for Square Enix Joshua so that he gets all the money directly. Gotcha.
But yeah, but that's the same.
The cover
that's the same. In
apparently,
right.
To the cover really quick. Ink is apparently the anti-Macnol. He is in chat praising the hell out of Square Enix right now. I mean, I am on the side of supporting this. Because what Ink is saying is, they're churning out content at a great rate. They've been treating us well. Like, this is still better than a lot of other gacha games. I agree on all fronts. All right, but we got to look at both sides. I don't think you can blindly follow one or the other. Macnol's very strictly against. Ink is very strictly for. So, we are covering both sides, and it benefits everyone to consider both sides. So we're not saying this is bad, and even Macnol, who has a huge problem with it, says he's still not going to quit the game yet because DFFOO has earned a lot of goodwill from him. It's earned a lot of great will from, all of us, as co-hosts. We play it because it's special. We're just talking about, because we care about the game, we talk about it. If we didn't care, we'd have quit. We'd have walked off. We're discussing these issues because we care. Got to bring them to light, bring them to consideration. But to wrap up, Mark, back to the original question. I'm sorry. Yes. Do you think paid ingots right now is a good idea?
Well, yeah, obviously. So
and Kreese, do you feel it that way?
I think from a financial corporate standpoint, it is a genius idea. Yeah. I think from a player standpoint, I'm concerned about how they are pricing everything to give that power to the players. As I stated before, I think they overshot. They should not have this should not be as expensive as it is for what they are offering.
I agree.
Especially considering they designed a limited resource that, despite the fact that they are giving us more of that limited resource in global and apparently Japan had at this time, it's still incredibly restricting. That's a problem. And they are selling us the solution to that problem.
Yep.
Keep that in mind. I would not be against spending money on an ingot package, but I'm not going to spend $42 on an ingot package where I have to decide now if I want it.
Macnol brings up a great point in chat. Macnol is countering Ink's point, saying, I'm 100% in favor of spending money to support the game on cosmetic things, like buying costumes or buying that platinum plate. When that comes out, I'd buy my way to Dimensions Clear, sure. But
I'll also
the point
I have most of the costumes in the game. I've skipped 1 or 2 recently for characters I know I'm not going to use.
Right. So, but Macnol's point is, if you want to support the game, there's always been buying gems and buying cosmetics has always been available, and people have done that. Mark and I, for example, we like to support the game, so we've bought every costume pack. We drop $70+ a month because we're stupid. But the point is that when they start bringing this towards gameplay, when they start locking gameplay behind purchases, sort of, because no matter how many ingots you get, realistically, you're not going to be able to experience every kit, every character kit.
Right.
Character kits are the gameplay of DFFOO. Let's say realistically, from here till where JP is, you can only 3-3 40 or so characters. And there are 100 something characters with EX pluses. You are being locked out by more than half of the game. And they're giving you the option to experience what you're locked out of by paying real money. And I do think that is an issue. I mean, it's part of the game, it's part of the business. But the point is, Macnol is saying there are less predatory ways to ask for our support that many of us players already do, which is cosmetics and gems.
But it's all predatory. I mean, like,
Yeah.
correct me if I'm wrong, but Fortnite is making billions of dollars, right? And
it is incredibly predatory by telling you what you would have gotten if you'd bought the battle pass, sorry, and also having daily deals that cycle very on a daily basis. Sorry.
But isn't most of that cosmetic
FOMO,
that
and it
stuff?
develops a sense where you need to keep spending if you want to keep up.
Okay, so but isn't a lot of the Fortnite stuff just cosmetic stuff that people?
It is
spend money?
exceptionally cosmetic, and I want to. I know I've leaned on. I've invested in the cosmetic aspect, and this is not a argument I can do justice, but it's just cosmetic is not a great argument for monetization schemes.
No, right.
I will say in a free-to-play game, I am more than happy to spend money for cosmetic options because that is a way I feel comfortable supporting the game because I am playing before that for free. I'm obviously not playing for free anymore because I've spent a lot of money on the game, and I want to make that point clear. I did not feel comfortable spending money on the ingot packages, but I have not felt wrong on spending money on other packages in the past.
Right, I want to buy
where
a
I am
gold
drawing
plate.
the line.
And we can go into this, but to wrap it up and take it away, the last thing I wanted to address is what each of us thinks. Like, because we talked about if we thought this was acceptable, that what each of us thinks would be a better approach to this. I'll go first because I buy everything anyways. I would have given them my money regardless. I like the game that much. I support them. I understand how business works. I do think I could have been buying other AAA games, but whatever, it's done. The point is, though, that even though I bought all of this unquestionably, I felt like 80 something dollars back to back in a 6-day time crunch was a bit extreme. I could understand completely.
Question, Mino. I'm going to turn this back on you.
Okay.
If you were to do it again, considering what you've considered now, would you do it again?
So the only reason I did it was because I feel like this was a very temporary sale thing. I feel like they won't do this every time in going forward. Like, I hope every month it's not like, here's 5 days you can buy the 2 ingot packages and then, or you're fucked. If they keep doing that, if they do that again next month, I will not. I'll buy maybe one instead of a costume pack, like Mark says. If they keep doing this back to back, I will not. I did it this one time because I feel like it was a one-time special thing, and I'll see where they go. It's like, I think purchasable ingots is a good idea. I don't think how they did it was the best way to do it. So with that being said, I bought it this time. I felt like the time crunch was too bad. If they did it one at like every 2 weeks, like they did the costume ones, that would feel a little better. If they wanted to introduce lower entry, like the JP $22 packs for an ingot as well as these bigger packets, I feel like that's good. So people can either pick up one ingot or they can pick up the big value pack, and they can even see how much value they get from the pack. That is my recommendations. If they spread out the sales more, or even I've heard a lot of people say if they do one of these packs a month, it feels a little less pay to win. But if they do like 2 full 3-3 weapons a month, that feels like whales can pull ahead by a huge amount. So I feel like if they spread the sales out more and they offer a lower point of entry, that would be a big improvement on my part. And Mark, you're the next person who bought the ingot packs. How do you feel like they could have improved it or made it more appealing to you?
Well, I agree with you. I think this was a Black Friday thing. This was a big push at the end of the year thing. I think it was just a good company move again, and we'll see how it is implemented further in the future, and hopefully it becomes a regular thing. We talked about this months ago. I have an issue with the whole created problem of ingots because I want this new weapon, these new EX weapons. I want to be able to use them on these characters I got. Here's a new banner, 2 EX weapons, 2 EX realizations. Well, I'm not going to be able to fully realize both of those weapons on almost any banner. So for me, that's a problem they created that they then will go back and fix with other weapons because we don't have that moving forward. That just limits play to me, and so if this is their solution to that, then yeah, it is what it is. But I would rather kind of have like the MOG passes and things like that. If this continues to be a thing like we've talked about, if these are bundled with something else or more accessible, then that'd certainly be good.
To address chat really quick and talk about the MOG passes you bring up. So CSDX is saying that in this EX Plus era, it feels like whales are getting much more of an advantage, right? Like before you buy gems, but what does that do? That brings you slightly closer to a pity or like increases your chance of getting a weapons. Here, it's like guaranteed you're going to pull way ahead of free-to-play players, which I think is a valid thing. What JP does with the MOG Pass, which I think is a little more fair, is I feel like this is a lot less power. When they buy the super expensive MOG Pass, that's like $45 a month subscription, they get 1/5 of a burst weapon token.
Yep.
So if they pay the pass for 5 months, they can collect any burst weapon they want. And half of an EX weapon. So if they pay the subscription for 2 months, they can just pick any EX weapon they want. I feel like that is still considerably less power than potentially 3-3ing 2 extra weapons a month, right? Like, so I feel like that's a more fair way to do it, but it is something they push in the future. And so, Kreese, what do you think they could do to improve the sale of ingots, or do you just not want them at all?
I honestly think that selling ingots, period, is not necessarily wrong. They have to find a way to invest or to get money out of players because this is a free play game, and as twisted as it sounds, they have to make money somehow. I think they need to offer more options, number one. Number two, they have to make these sales available for more than just a few days, because when you have a sale available for 24, 48, 36 hours, that's a tight crunch where people have to do not necessarily have the time to think about, is this a good idea? Do I have the money to spend on this? Should I spend the money on this? Do I want to spend the money on this? And instead it becomes an impulse buy, which is a huge problem. And the reason I definitely avoided this, because I had impulse bought gem packages in the past to try to get weapons that I wanted, and I'd learned my lesson. I did not want to repeat that here.
Right, and people agreeing with you in chat, I agree with you as well, which is basically like, that's a great point. To the people supporting the Black Fives Day sale, if they weren't trying to be predatory, I feel like they'd make it available all the time.
Yeah.
Like as regular as the regular gem sales were, to give people an option, be like, okay, this month I want to pick it up, or this week I want to pick it up, or this event I need help, I'll pick it up. This was very
imagine like the MOG pass where it was the MOG passes which were available for a month, and then you got the benefits for a week or a month. Imagine the ingot sale. Once a month you had an ingot sale, or you had a couple options, and once you chose one, they were all locked out. But that was it. So you could choose one, you were done. You knew what you had, and you were okay with that because you had time to think about it. If you chose on the 35th day, it was the same as if you chose on the first day. It would not be a big issue. The problem is you had a very limited amount of time during a holiday period for the North American, or the United States, sorry. And I strictly chose no. Other players strictly chose no. Some players jumped in because they were freaking out about the fact that this might never come back, and they wanted that advantage now.
Yeah, that's true. They also did not. They also pretty much hinted that this is a special deal. There's no telling if they'll come back, which also put pressure on the FOMO that we've been talking about.
So one last thing as we wrap up today. If this does come back, Square Enix Joshua, Yeah, just bundle the armor ingots with the weapon ingots. Come on.
No, they'll make it more expensive. Don't do that. Keep the armor ingots separate so I don't have to pay for them. I mean, if you want to be really
Who bought
insidious, keep the price, but make it a red book, a blue book, a red ingot, and a blue ingot.
No,
that way
no,
people have to buy more.
Don't do that.
I have one other comment to make. Sorry.
Yeah, please.
Go ahead.
One last thing I'm going to say is that and I know that there are going to be people who are against any subscription models type things against me, but I think considering a subscription model type of thing where maybe instead of putting $42 down for an ingot today or 2 ingots in a book today, instead you pay a subscription for a month, which is at a lower price, a more reasonable price, theoretically, gives you access to maybe something equivalent to a special Chocobo panel that gives you a book and an ingot a month. It takes you time to generate it, but you still get it. You get some gems in the process. You might get some upgrade materials in the process. You might get some gil in the process. Something close to what Japan has now, but something that might be more reasonable for what we want now. And I think a lot of people will be willing to pay subscriptions. This is coming from a person who has paid for one MMO subscription for, 15 years now?
It's been a few years.
And 2 subscription models for games specifically for 5 years now, along with paying for a lot of other subscription models. And while we will hit a period where subscription saturation and subscription fatigue will happen, I think people are willing to spend money on this game as a subscription process if it means it is affordable, reasonable, and they get what is worth their money for that subscription.
So like chat's blowing up.
Mog passes.
Yeah. Chat's blowing up with support to you. Everyone in here, Macnil and Inkwelder finally agreed on something. Look, they said they would absolutely pay for a subscription because subscription is a fixed amount, so it eliminates the gambling thing, and everyone's willing to pay a fixed amount for everyone likes your idea. But I mean, your idea is coming. The Mog Pass is a subscription. Right. It is coming. It's $6 to just double your points all month, and then it's $45 to double your points all month, and then get a fraction of a burst tokens and EX tokens. Yeah. So you can kind of decide later but $6 a month, double farming points, pretty good. So a lot of people really like this subscription idea. Hopefully Square Enix takes his advice, because that's how we got the Kupo cards, right? I want to believe the Kupo cards were a big success and they led to Mog Passes in JP. I want to believe that GL took the feedback for the Kupo cards and then brought it to JP. It was a big hit all around, and it's improved for all of us. And the final pieces of chat I'll read, and then Mark can take us out, is people are saying that, well, this is a PvE game, people shouldn't be feeling FOMO or care if people are buying things, they should just focus on their own game. I agree. It is true that because this lacks a PvP element, it is easier to say that ingots aren't as damning as they could be, but also let's not pretend FOMO is not a natural human thing. We talked about seeing strong weapons and costumes in co-op. I won't lie, I've been tempted to pull on some characters because I saw how awesome they were fully built. And people make videos, and if the game was not trying to trigger our jealousy or envy, why is there a percentage of who cleared what? And why are there plates representing who cleared what? Please don't pretend the game does not take this into account.
Yep.
It is a very real thing. And that's all. I thought there was one more, but that's all I got. Mark, you want to take us out?
Yes, I do. And I do. I think, and they can do both. They can do a subscription model and also then have those opportunities for those who are, the big spenders to keep going.
More options.
But I think more options and multi-tiered options, I think are a benefit to the community and certainly makes everybody feel better in living within this model, which is problematic industry-wide. And we can all agree on that. All right. Well, thank you for this good extra long show to make up for the week that we missed last week. But thank you all for joining us. We had a great group on Twitch tonight. Thank you all. If you're catching part of it, remember you can go tomorrow. Well, as soon as the show's done tonight live, you can catch it video on demand on Twitch, the entire show. Tomorrow, you'll be able to catch it on YouTube and through our podcast services, whatever podcast service you would like. If you're having trouble finding anything, you can go to www.tccpodcast.com. How many W's was that? There's just three W's, tccpodcast.com. There you can find our links to our Facebook, our Twitter, our Twitch, our YouTube. You can just stream the show right from the website as well, and you can find the link to our Discord. I also include all of the Tonberry Troops infographics, so the Flickr account that has all of the albums, and also Macnol's index of the Call to Arms. So thank you all. Thank you all of our people who make this, all our moderators. Macnol Inc. were on there helping us out and keeping the arguments real. Thank you, Mino. Thank you, Kreese. This has been episode 79 of the Crystal Chronicles. We'll see you all next week. Until then, good luck and goodbye.